Okay, it's telling me it's live, so let's hope for the best. See what happens.
I mean, if it's telling you, that's got to be a good sign, right?
Yeah, if they're honest.
We are live. I just pulled it up on my TV.
Very good. Yes, just saying about the hard road for us now going into the grand final. Yes, I'm not looking forward to it.
Probably the
I'm
Eels and then the Storm.
yeah, I'm tipping probably the Eels, and then the Storm, and then on the other side of the draw, I'd probably put my money on South.
I mean, those are going to be two interesting prelims. Like, assuming Manly beat the Roosters, then you've got the Rabbits and Manly.
Yeah, I don't know. Wonder who's going to win that one. It's going to be an interesting game. Turbo will have something to prove after he got against the Storm. They got absolutely schooled. It was interesting. He pretty much had no impact on the game.
I know, right? Considering he's had one of the most influential seasons in the history of the competition.
Yeah,
Something like 20 tries or 25 tries and like 30 assists or something. Isn't that what he's had this year?
it's something ridiculous like that. It completely threw me. I was like, what? Storm are just that bloody good. And that's why it's so terrifying. It's like, it's their comp. That's why even last year, everyone talked about us bombing the grand final. It's like, no, we didn't lose. The Storm won. Like, they are the team to beat. And the Roosters would be up there if they didn't have all their injuries.
I mean, you almost came back. It was a pretty exciting grand final finish.
Yeah, it was good to watch us coming back and everything, but yeah, they had double the triple finals experience that we had. Still do. It's like, then with Craig Bellamy. So, I mean, them and Roosters are basically the top two teams of the last decade.
Yeah, and like you had that taste last night of having to play a final from behind
Yeah.
when last year you didn't really have that. I think, other than the grand final, I'm pretty sure they were talking during the commentary on Fox that um, every final for the last however many they said you've played, you've conceded first. So last year you conceded first to the Roosters in the qualifying.
Yeah, then we played South.
Yeah, the Rabbits in the prelim, that ended up winning. So like you could deal with that deficit early, but you hadn't had to deal with the deficit late, which I think is probably what happened. Like you've got those big game players like Cleary and like some of your more experienced guys who know how to handle that, but you had a whole lot of players in your team. Probably
Yeah. And I think
Scouts had like
last night could be a benefit
mm,
because they have been able to cruise for the last 2 years. And then sort of even with the finals last year, they like I said, there was no losses, no nothing. It was sort of they went undefeated into the grand final, and then this year, even though we've been off, we've only lost to pretty much the Storm. Really, like we lost a couple of games this year, but a lot of easy excuses around having players out and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this, we've just about got the full strength team back, going to a final, and then get like total lesson from a top 4 team. And I think
like
that
that other top four team had a lot of game managers who knew what to do.
yeah,
Like you've got Reynolds, you've got Marshall, you've got Walker. Yeah, they had some young guys too, but those game managers in those late stages when you were coming at them pretty hard stood up,
yeah,
and
they
guys
worked
just made
really
a couple
well.
costly errors.
Fish, Toto, those guys were handled really well. Like it's like they knew perfectly what they wanted to do. Like Wayne Bennett played that so well. It was so perfect.
What
Like
were your thoughts when Kick Out, I think it was, made that late break? Was it
um
Kick Out? Was that the one?
yeah, I think I was just frustrated that he like the way he threw it away, sort of thing.
Mm.
If he couldn't make the pass, he shouldn't have tried to force it. He should have just taken the tackle, gone on the next one, set up and go. That's what they would have done earlier in the year.
Because I think he still had a couple tackles up his sleeve at that point. I think it was
Yeah,
either third or fourth.
it wasn't the last tackle. And a lot of our game was like that, where like Burton had Toto completely unmarked on the try line at one point, and he just didn't pass it and took the tackle. It was the most obvious, most simple thing ever, and all he had to do was give the ball to Toto, and it was 6 points. It's like it was so uncharacteristic, which is why I say I think it could be a positive, because they'll have to go back and look at themselves and be like, wow, they were like little chickens with their heads cut off. Like it was so chaotic. It's like their heads weren't properly in the game. Like Burton
I
had, right?
I would say that being in Townsville, humidity probably had to do a fair bit with how things panned out.
I mean,
Um,
maybe, but South played probably one of their best games of the year, especially defensively. So I'm not sure you can really use that too much as an excuse, sort of thing.
well, it definitely wasn't the first game. That was wild.
Yeah, yeah. But so no, I wouldn't say that. I think we missed Leota and Sorensen big time. We got beat in the middle so much. I think Burgess ran for like 200 meters or something coming off the bench. Like that goes to show just how much their forwards dominated that game.
Yeah, Burgess was man on a mission last night.
Like I'd be giving him the Dally M points pretty much. And then you look at like even Nathan Cleary, his kicking game, there was no variation at all. It was all that he was trying too hard to bomb it to the fullback and get him to drop it after he dropped that first one. And it's like, man, you've gone a half of football. He's only dropped one. At some point, put in some variation for your kicking, because they're handling it very easily, and they were getting a lot of field position from it. All their tackles were like starting at the 30-meter line almost.
Yeah, you've got to give credit to Taff for the way he recovered from that mistake early on. That was really, really mature, I'd say
Yeah,
is probably the right word.
yeah. See, they banked on him losing that confidence and not being able to take those balls, but it was pretty clear after the next couple that he was switched on and ready to go, and Penrith didn't adapt to that. They just thought, no, we'll keep doing it, and it just went that way for the rest of the game. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he tried, or he had a couple where he juggled it or bobbled it, but yeah, he handled himself really well after that first drop.
I don't know. I think, yeah, and Staines is copping a lot, which I think is complete nonsense. I hate it. It's pissing me off. He's an easy scapegoat because the fan base don't like him much, but he ran for 100 meters, which was one of the big ones that he was getting criticized for, because he wasn't being able to run 100 meters or more. He did that. He found his front 90% of his carries. You know, like he had one drop, which was passed over his shoulder, which I still thought he should have caught it, but like you can kind of forgive it, I guess. One of those 50-50 ones. And then he had a miss on, I think it was Gay Guy, which led to a try. But at the same time, Liam Martin also was coming from the inside and just kind of stopped and let Gay Guy run past him and threw his hands up like he was playing for a penalty or something. I'm like, well, where's Martin's criticism for that? He also had that miss and a drop later too. It's really frustrating how certain players are getting singled out, when I can think of maybe 2 or 3 players who deserve to actually get a Get a beer after that game. Everyone else can miss out.
Mm. And I think the other thing that works against Staines is comparing him to Toto, like comparing him to the other winger and the work that that other winger does. It's hard to live up to, I guess, the lofty expectations that
Well,
Toto has set throughout the year.
I think it's more the fact that he replaced Mansour essentially. So when you're replacing a club legend like that, the sentiment is already against him. And Mansour was a meter eating winger like Toto, so yeah, he's getting sort of compared to that standard. But they never, they're not run like you look at the Storm with Josh Adokar. They run a lot of plays for his side to give him space. So him and Justin Olam on that side have time and space. We don't have anything like that. Like there was one where once when he went to kick early and it got like charged down or something. And it's like, why are you doing it when you're desperate? Like, and he had, I think, one in the second half where it was like a little chip and chase with Staines in the middle. Like, Staines is pretty much one of the quickest at the club. You should be doing this on a regular or semi-regular basis. But instead, they leave him on his wing to take hit-ups into a set defensive line, and then they go, oh, but why is he not making meters? We don't understand. And I think that comes down to the coaching. Like, no offense to Ivan, I don't mean to talk down stuff from my own club, but he should be seeing that stuff and going, you know what, I've got a player here who has some specific things he's really good at. I'm going to address that and make it work for us in game, because you guarantee a guy like Staines is playing at like Melbourne or Roosters. Well, you're going to get a lot different output from him because the coach knows what they're doing.
And speaking of coaches, there's obviously been a lot said between the two coaches from last night before the game, like during the week, and even after the game as well.
Oh,
Tell me how you feel about all that.
that was fantastic. I love seeing that. It was just like, yeah, Ivan's going to cop a lot of crap for it, but I kind of think that's a bit the point. So instead of everyone talking about the on-field, how Penrith lost, certain players like Jerome Luai, cough, fucking your shit up, bro. Like, now everyone's going to be talking about Ivan Cleary and his weird press conference. It's straight out of the Wayne Bennett playbook, really. It's like, hey, get the media talking about you instead of the team.
Which Wayne doesn't find very difficult to do.
Yeah, and Wayne just dunked on him. It was hilarious. I actually, it's funny I was really cranky after the game for obvious reasons, but still got a good laugh out of Wayne's. He really just gave it to Ivan in the best way possible. I couldn't help but enjoy it. It was too good. But
Yeah, them's were fighting words.
Yeah, but I definitely think Ivan knows what he's doing, because now Fox Sports and all those journos will be all over it, like, oh my god, Ivan, and they'll be, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Now he'll go back to training, and all the pressure's on him as the coach. No one's going to be talking about Charlie Staines, Jerome Luai, James Fisher Harris. All these guys can go back to training and just do their thing and work up to next week's game.
How much thought do you reckon will be put into your opposition for next week after your opposition for next week is determined later today?
What was that, sorry?
How much thought do you reckon will be put into preparing for the opposition that you'll have next week, obviously after they're worked out?
I think a
Does that make
lot.
sense?
I think after the way they played last night, I think Ivan's going to put a lot of serious thought into this. And I know Nathan will, particularly. He's the kind of player he will go back and watch footage and work on his game. And I guarantee you he'll go back and see that game and be like, oh, my kicking game was kind of garbage. I need to do better. I can't, like, I actually kind of, whoever plays next week, I think is going to have the wrath of Nathan Cleary. Honestly, he's the one that take it most personally.
Good luck to whoever that's going to be then. Probably
Yeah.
Parramatta.
Like I'm guessing Parramatta.
Yeah, so am I.
Like just because I think the Knights have been a bit inconsistent here and there. But they can't
But then
win
again, so are the Titans.
yeah. But I think they've had a nice they beat Melbourne and then all their top players had a rest and those players who have the confidence from that game are coming back this week.
Yep.
And I
Whereas
think
the
that
Knights are coming off that loss to the Broncos.
so I think it's like a big momentum mentality sort of thing coming into this game. As I said, I think the Knights have the ability to win it, like with Pierce and Ponga and that being there, they've got the talent, but the Eels definitely have the mental edge at the moment.
Which was similar to my reason why I thought the Titans would keep it close with the Roosters.
Yeah.
I felt like they had that momentum from that game against the Warriors, and knowing that what they did there was what got them into the finals, and how that all played out and the drama and chaos of that game. I thought that would give them a lot of momentum heading into that game last night. Turns out it did.
Well, you look at that. If the center, got his name off the top of my head now.
Herbert.
Yeah, if he passes that ball, that's it. It's done.
Inside or outside,
Like
neither of Thompson or Fifita
yeah,
were
like
marked.
Feeder had a clear run straight at the winger if he wanted at Tupou. There is no chance one outside back on their own is stopping Fifita on the try line like that.
Yeah, no, that's not
It
happening.
is all he literally had to do was just square up a little bit, keep the center interested in himself, give it to Fifita, and be like, there you go, man. Game over, done. They go on to next week.
Roosters go home. That would have been a wild upset.
That's got to be one of the biggest bomb tries in the history of the game. I think the Titans had a similar one earlier in the year too. I don't understand what it is with Titan centers and not passing the ball. I think when they played Melbourne,
they cost themselves.
like I hope he didn't cover too bad after the game. Like he would have known straight away what had happened, and he must have been feeling so bad.
Yeah, he was copping it on the socials and stuff as well.
Yeah,
like especially with Corey spraying him, but Corey came out and
he did a post basically saying, "Hey, it's all cool, you know,
things happen."
Like that's fair enough. In the heat of the moment, you're going to be angry and emotional. Like it's a finals game and do or die. Like they're out now. You know, of course, Corey Thompson's going to spray him in the moment. He's like, "Bro, we were there." But it's not something you'd hopefully carry for too long afterwards. Like you go back, have your shower, and chill out, and be like, "Right, just got to make sure to be aware of it next time."
I've still got serious questions about the blocking for Walker's field goal. That was blatantly illegal. There's no other way to describe it. It
Yeah, I
was
saw a lot of comments
illegal.
online about it. I'm like, I'm because I'm like watching the game and I thought, man, that looked a bit sus. And then everyone else is mentioning it. I'm like, okay, I wasn't imagining that. I remember we've been penalised for that before. I don't understand how they missed it. We went from a game where we kind of didn't want to penalise stuff because it's the finals game to a game where, with our game, where they wanted to penalise everything. Like we had so much go against us, and you could tell it was because last time we played, where everyone accused the ref of cheating because he's like a Penrith district ref or whatever he is. And it's like, you could see they were trying to make up for that. But look, we're not biased. Look how many penalties South's got. There was a couple in there.
Making up for the few weeks ago.
Yeah, there was one where Pangai Jr. got penalised for having his like leg in the rock, and the player playing the ball dropped it. And then the replay showed he was nowhere near it.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? It's just
why did you not challenge that?
Like they're just blowing penalties for the sake of making sure South didn't appear to be ripped off or something. It's like, they're trying to manage public opinion of the ref, and it's like, you know, what the hell? What? Just officiate the game properly. Or like there was one with Crichton where he's contesting the kick and got penalised for tackling the fullback in the air. And it's like even the commentary were like, "What the hell? He was just going for the ball."
Yeah. What could he do in that situation? Like
Yeah.
he was going for the ball. The ball
Like,
was gone into the arms by the time it got there, but he was
yeah,
still going for the ball.
yeah, he was going for the ball. They collided. They both hit the ground equally as sort of awkwardly because two guys going at speed collided in the air. Like, it was just a normal sort of thing, but they said you could see it was in their heads, which is hopefully what'll happen out of Ivan and Wayne's little back and forward is that they will remember that they're supposed to be officiating a game quite neutrally. Like, you know, something happens, analyze it 6 again at whatever. Something doesn't, then let it go. You know, not worrying so much about public opinion. Like that's why sin bins got put away so much the last few years, and they had a crackdown on it because the complaints were always, "Oh, if there's a sin bin, you're affecting the game too much." You know, so then they got scared to sin bin people. They're just NRL referees are so obsessed with public opinion.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine the uproar if Grant Atkins had officiated your game last night again?
There would have been a week of just non-stop. Like, oh my god, you'd have to avoid Twitter for the week beforehand. You'd never hear the end of it.
Oh, that would be chaos incarnate.
I mean, it would be a hell of a troll job on the part of the NRL, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Vlandis is
whoever
just,
the ref's boss is now, just arranging that one.
yeah, he's just sitting there sipping his drink in his office. Oh, job well done.
Way to piss off 2 fair bases in a week.
Yeah, like
Jeez.
I wouldn't have minded copying the penalties if they were fair, and but I don't think it decided the game either. I think Souths had the edge in enthusiasm and the way they were playing. That they were winning every single physical contest in the game. They won it just about. I mean,
I'm gonna bring up the stats for the game. I'll run you through some of the stats. Possession ended up being 52% Souths, 48%. Completions, Souths won 84 to 75. Completing 37 out of 44. You guys, 30 out of 40. Won the run meters by just over 100. Post contact by a little over 50. 4 line breaks to 4. 28. Souths won 28 tackle breaks to 21. You guys had the better of the kick return meters, but I'm like a lot of those are probably from Toto.
hey,
Yeah, so the 6 agains, you guys got 3, they got 2. But penalties, you guys conceded 7, they conceded 5.
yeah,
You guys made 12 errors to their 9.
yeah. I said I don't think it decided the game. Like I think if we had Edwards, Leota, Sorensen there, then I think we do win
Probably.
because our meters gained and that middle of the field becomes a lot better then. Edwards makes 150 to 200 meters a week coming out of the back, and he organizes the defensive line probably better than anyone else at the club at the moment. They're sort of his strengths. Like he's not like a fantastic ball playing, fullback or anything, but he's got a decent enough running game. And yeah, the big one is organizing that defense. Holy crap, we noticed that last night.
Oh, yeah. So what do you reckon about the other semi next week, the one we already know who's playing? Manly. training run for Manly?
Yes, we've got Manly. I know it's interesting because like I said, I think they were just they looked so bad because they were against the Storm.
And the Storm knew what they were going to do to shut
Yeah.
down Tom.
Like it's Craig Bellamy. He would have just gone through the week and gone, right, this is what we're doing, this, and this, and done sorted. And the game is pretty much over before you play them. When you're playing the Storm, like they're one step ahead of you before kickoff.
Yeah, like half an hour focus on how to shut down Tom Turbo, and then that's it. Let's just focus on us for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
Done.
like and that's really all you need with Manly. Like we had the same thing when we played them and we beat them with Turbo in the team. Like it can be done. He's not invincible. You've just got to be aware of how they play. Like any game, any team, got to be aware where their strengths are. And you got to make sure to account for it. Like South did that very well against us. They shut down Fish, and because Eisenhuth is such a plotter, our front row had nothing, so they won the middle. Shut down Toto because Edwards wasn't there to make meters and have those sort of kick returns. That took that out of it.
I meant to ask you that yesterday before kickoff. Actually, how did you feel about the Leota being replaced by Eisenhuth situation? I know Leota was injured, so obviously it was unavoidable. But
like, if obviously you had your way, you wouldn't want those changes. Like I said it earlier in the year, where I don't think we win the comp without Edwards at fullback. It's like maybe if someone has a good off season and they can take it from him later, but at the moment, the way it stands, we're not going to win it with Crichton there because he's just filled in for a few games. Whereas Edwards has done it for a few years. Granted, some injuries, but we need him there. He's super important for this season. And Leota, you could just straight up see it watching the game, the difference. Eisenhuth just it's absolutely dominated the whole game. He has absolutely nothing to contribute. Like I don't. That sounds so harsh. I feel so mean saying that, but like if you switch him for Leota in that game,
you're so much better.
like the difference is ridiculous because Leota has an explosiveness to him. He runs hard, he tackles hard, he does a very good job. You know, he's not a superstar, but he would have helped. He would have taken a lot of pressure off James Fisher-Harris.
Yeah.
But instead, that 20-minute period before the first interchange, Fisher's doing all the work himself of the front row.
Eisenhuth was barely spotted. I didn't see too much of him anyway.
Like if we have to rely on him again at any point for the next couple of games, we're pretty much stuffed. Because it also means guys like Liam Martin have to go play more in the middle, and we had Mitch Kenny play at second row at one point last night, and it's like, Jesus Christ, this is horrible.
Eisenhuth played 33 minutes last night.
He ran for like 20-something meters. I'm like, cool.
Making 5 runs for 35 meters, 14 post contact.
It's like, how do you expect to succeed when you're playing against a team who has a very good middle? You got Burgess and Murray and all these guys. Like every single person has to have a very good game.
I mean, he was active in the tackling department. He made 35 tackles, missing 1.
Yeah.
I mean, 35 tackles in 33 minutes is pretty decent effort.
He's the definition of a journeyman depth signing.
But poor Fisher-Harris, like his 50 minutes, he made 32 tackles, missing 5.
Yeah.
But when you're left out in the cold by Eisenhuth, there's
like you could see he was absolutely gassed by the end of it. Let's have a look.
I'll try and find Leota's.
Yeah, see, he only ran 79 meters, Fish, from 9 runs, according to NRL.com. Like it's funny. Charlie Staines ran for 108 meters, which is more than both starting props, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, both.
Yeah.
So Charlie Staines, a 30-kilo winger who everyone criticizes for being too small, ran for more meters than both starting props combined. I think almost like that. That should tell you something right there. Like what the fuck happened? Harris ran for 79 meters. Yeah. So Staines ran for 108 meters. Fish and Eisenhuth combined made 114. So they beat him by like 5 meters.
Yeah, but two players
Six.
combining to beat one.
Yeah. And that's our, like, the guy who everyone criticizes for being too small and doesn't really contribute. Like that's insane. Absolutely ridiculous. Liam Martin, 45 meters. Pengai Jr., 47 meters. Lenu, 46 meters. So you know what's funny? Lenu's 40 meters came from 11 minutes.
Jeez.
So he only got 11 minutes and he still was. He ran as much as Pengai, who got an extra 12 minutes than he did of game time.
Are you getting the value out of Pangai that you thought you would? Do you reckon?
I don't think he's filling a spot, I guess. I mean, but he hasn't come in and like exploded on the scene or anything. Like he just seems to be happy to showing up, getting some game time, and off he goes.
I mean, he's there for like a third of a season, then he's off to the Dogs.
Yeah, so I don't think that was good enough from him last night. Like most of our forwards, Isaiah Yeo ran for 73 meters. He's the only forward who and playing at lock, but even he had that big break. Like you could see how the middle just got dominated. Like, it's crazy. No, sorry, Yo got 139 meters. Like he's the only forward who got over 100 meters. Yeah. And he's probably a lot of his came from that run at the end of the game when it was like 60 meters or whatever it was, or 50-meter run.
I reckon he got like 40 meters out of that run.
And credit to
So
him.
even before then, he was well below his best.
That's what I mean. It's and yeah, everyone wants to go Charlie Staines, even though he made 108 meters running into a set defensive line, and he's like 30 kilos wringing wet. Like, then Jerome Luai looked like he was scared to run the ball.
Yeah,
Whereas,
you did not get your normal value out of Luai last night.
yeah, no, like it's nuts. I don't understand what since Origin he's been way down. Yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully, a bit of luck fans actually see where the problems are and doesn't just become the Charlie Staines scapegoat week. Though I don't think he'll be there next week when Edwards comes back. I think they'll go back to Momirovski at centre and Crichton on the wing again.
Yeah, probably.
That seems to be Ivan's preference at the moment. And I get it, but after last night, I'd be tempted to have Crichton at centre and Staines on the wing. And I'd just be saying to Staines, just keep doing what you did last night. Like, the way he was at least able to find his front and get good play the balls. He was one of the few people to actually do it last night. Even Toto, like he got bolt meters again, as he always does. He got dominated a lot last night. And that wasn't his fault. He was getting gang tackled 3 at a time all the time, which was clearly Bennett had prepped his team really well for it. But
Master coach, super coach, or whatever they call him.
yeah.
Word.
Like Ivan just got simply outcoached. It was the same as Origin last year. Like Fittler was completely outcoached, and Ivan copped it last night. Like fuck Bennett, that wily old prick, still got it. It's ridiculous how good he is.
So the charge sheet is up from the first 3 games, and it's looking like the Roosters will be without Verrills next week.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
Verrills facing a week or 2 for a high tackle charge, grade 2 careless.
Yeah.
36. It was a 36th minute tackle on Brian Kelly. Oh, that was the one we were saying. Why is that not a sin bin? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
that's
lot of
that
people were saying the same thing. It's like if that was Magic Round, the referee just would have like dragged him at the back and just like put him down.
Taken the bazooka out there and just pointed at his
Yeah.
face and said,
Like they
"Bye."
just they just it'd be like straight up assassination in the middle of the field. It's like in those mob movies, and they just down on their knees, and they just like
The
it's
only suspension out of week 1 so far.
yeah.
Manly forward Schuster
Kikau
facing a
got charged
fine.
for us, but it's only a fine. Dangerous contact.
Yeah, Kikau and Schuster fine. Just Verrills suspended.
I can't complain about that because Kikau's actually been playing really well since they've started using him off the bench. So he's not just wearing himself out in that first 15, 20 minutes defending. He can just come on and have his impact like he wants to do.
So who's going to come in for Verrill? Interesting. I legit wonder who the Roosters have got left to fill in for Verrills.
They might just do a raffle with Roosters fans or something.
maybe bring Sam Walker back in and send Hutchinson to
It was really weird that Walker was
hooker.
on the bench and Lamb played half. I don't understand that personally, but
Yeah, Walker got 9 minutes and Lachlan Lamb was subbed off for him.
Ivan.
I don't know what that go with all that is.
Like there's that charge down field goal and then the field goal he got, and that was at that mammoth tackle. That was about all Sam Walker did. All he needed to do.
Yeah, he kicked the field goal, off he goes. Sweet, done. Job's sorted.
Well, had to make a try-saving tackle first.
Yeah.
A match-saving tackle even. Whoever it was who made that break. Geez, both of those games last night were a lot closer than most people expected.
Yeah. Like the ending to that Tigers only. The ending to the Titans game was ridiculous. I was pretty much standing up at the end there. I jumped off the couch as they made that break down the left side, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, this one's not over yet.
Like I that was probably one of the best neutral games I've watched. Like even our game, like now that the emotion's sort of out of it a little bit more, and like the actual quality of the game for a neutral for both those games last night would have been really good.
I'm just going to have a look at the error counts for both of those 2 games yesterday. Roosters Titans. Roosters made 12, Titans made 13, so that's 25. Your game, you guys made 12, the Rabbits made 9, so it's 21. So 46 errors in 2 games of finals football in the humid, muggy Townsville air.
Yeah. I don't think it detracted too much from the quality.
Geez, that ground though was looking pretty worse for
It
wear
was
by the end
pretty
of the
rough.
game,
Like,
wasn't
yeah,
it?
like I called it out. If you remember, I said it on Discord at the end of
Yeah,
the Roosters game. I was like, man, this is starting to come up a bit. But thankfully, no one did any knee injuries. That was the one I was really worried about. Like between us and South being the second game, I was worried that some players were gonna pop some injuries with that.
because we've all seen what grounds like Lotto Land have done to cause like player injuries. Lotto
Yeah,
Land is probably the worst one for it.
that's horrible. They need an upgrade stat. I thought I would bring up.
They've been doing something there at Lotto Land during the season. I noticed like there's a on the one side of the field there's been a nice big dirt pile or something.
Yeah, not sure. I thought I'd pull up Ivan Cleary's press conference. That'll be the big fun thing everyone's going to be talking about this weekend.
I haven't seen too much about it yet, but I'm sure there's going to be more to come.
Well, I've done the screen share on Discord there, so you should be able to see it. The volume will come through so you can hear what they're saying. It's. I got to admit that if you watch them back to back and do that, it's actually kind of amusing. You'll get a good laugh out of it. Even I did, and it's the coach of my own team, so that should tell you something.
Yeah, I didn't actually watch them, so I'm very curious to see exactly how they both went
Yeah.
down.
But I do think, as I said earlier, I do think there was an element of deliberateness to it. I think it's a case of I'm just going to plant these seeds out there and just take attention. Coaches have forever been popping the heat in the media and by fans and all this sort of stuff, so the players are shielded from it to an extent.
So Ivan did have his first.
Yeah, so Ivan was first, and then Bennett got the response.
Right then.
We'll see how it goes. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Ivan, your thoughts on that one?
Can you be more direct?
Your thoughts on how the game went?
I gotta. Like, how hard could your job be as a journalist? Like, he shows up. Oh, Ivan, your thoughts on that one? Okay. What? Yeah, we lost. It sucked. Thanks for coming.
End of press conference.
We'll see you next week, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting paid for this. Like, this is your profession. Like, it's not like, us. We just enjoy the sport. We're just out there and interacting with it, whatever. Joel, this is actually, you're a professional. That'd be like a professional NRL player running out in the field without his boots on or something. I don't. It got me last night when I was watching it. As soon as that came on, because I was watching it on TV, and I'm like, oh my god, that just feels so awkward. Quick, move on.
You seemed like you frustrated at the end, your side, that they just couldn't get over the top of South. They defended really well.
Yeah, they did. It was obviously a tough, tight game. Where it could have gone either way. I thought I was pretty happy to go into 10-all at half time. I thought, they had probably more opportunities than we did in the first half for various reasons.
That. Your thoughts on whether you think South can take the Storm if it comes to that?
That'll be a blockbuster grand final.
I said it on Reddit in the Sunday discussion, where I think that's one of South's best games this year, and especially defensively. I think if they defend like that for the rest of this final series, they're gonna be up there. The question is whether they can then take the Storm. Don't know. I still think Storm are ahead of everyone else. I said they're like 2 levels above us from last night, and South would be their main competition at this point.
Well, Souths are guaranteed another prelim, and is that 4 from the last 4 years or 3 from the last 3?
I think that's 4. I think ours against them last year was the 3rd. I think.
They haven't been able to get past the prelim, but now that they've actually won the qualifying final,
Yeah, having that
This-
week off will make the world of difference to them.
yeah, this is their best chance ever to break that curse and make the grand final and get past that prelim.
Yeah, and Reynolds will want to have a good showing before he leaves South.
Benji potentially before he retires as well.
Yeah, exactly. So they've got a lot going for them, and they'll carry a lot of confidence out of that. Like, we've won the last 5 games against South, because I've got the press conference there. I can't around on the internet, but I'm pretty sure we're now 5-1 against South. So they just beating us after the week of chat in the media and then this press conference, and I think they'll take a big mental edge out of that. I think whoever plays them in that prelim is going to have a bad day, personally.
Yeah, so South's lost the prelim to you guys last year.
Yep.
Lost the prelim to the Raiders in 19. In 18, they lost to the Roosters. And they were not there in 17. Yeah, so four prelims in a row now. Question is, will they turn it around? And I mean, their opposition is going to be either the Roosters, who they've had the wood over this year, or Manly.
I think they can win both those.
And I think, did they play Manly twice this year? I know they played Manly at least once, and they lost the first. They won the first one because that was while Manly still had no Tom.
Yeah, well, both those games are winnable. Like, if they play like last night, that's
Especially with a week off.
well, that's the big defining factor. I think that'll be what gives them the edge. Like, where even if we a great game next week, we're still going to have to play Melbourne after Melbourne got a week off.
Yeah.
Like, playing Melbourne to get to a grand final is an absolute nightmare scenario.
Okay. Yeah. The Rabbits did only play Manly once this year, and it was back in round 2.
Well, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna have to put a lot of thought into next week's games because the Manly one's gonna be very awkward to tip. I think it's gonna be very, very awkward.
You mean Manly and the Roosters?
Yes, like it's because Roosters, although they're doing well, you look at that game against the Titans last night. Titans just played with a bit of energy. They messed some things up. Like, by right, should have won that game. So if Manly play properly and actually don't stuff it up, I think they made like 3 errors against the Storm, which all led to tries. Like, if they get that out of their game, well, I think it's safe to say it's easily winnable for them.
It's also funny that the Roosters and the Eagles have only played each other once this year as well, and that was in round 1 when,
Yeah,
as we know, Manly was still out without Tom Turbo, and
yeah, in that 4-week period where
Roosters had all of their players still before they all copped their injuries.
yeah, and the media came out saying Des was under pressure and he needed help and all this sort of stuff.
And that was a 46-4 shellacking.
That hurt.
Yeah, in the second half, I thought we had him. Fortunately, we gave up a try early in the second half. That was disappointing. Then for the rest of the half, I thought we were just grinding away and kind of had him probably where we wanted. Come up with probably 3 or 4 opportunities where we just did nice. That
Yeah, very Penrith-like. One thing they normally do really well is they execute like to a T, and they either didn't make a pass they needed to make, or when they would, it'd go to ground, or like there was one point when Luai threw a big cutout pass to To'o and it just wasn't on. You could see the defense was ready to slide across, and then they took him out.
Yeah.
Like, when he should have hit the center.
And that was on first tackle as well. Like, they just got a repeat set. It was 0 tackle. They try the expansive play on 0, end up getting tackled, and then they try that literally on first tackle. It's like, what are you doing, you fools?
Yeah, like, it wasn't their normal game. Like, he should have hit Burton if they were going to play that play, and then let Burton attract the defense or run himself, depending on what happened. They were all over the shop. It was ridiculous. And you can see Ivan acknowledging it there means with a bit of luck, they'll put some effort into it this week.
And then that other one was Luai literally dropping the ball from dummy half with like 25 seconds to go.
Yeah,
Or whatever
I'm
it
like,
was.
what the hell? Luai, I think someone needs to give him a hug or something and say, hey, it's okay. You got a very good 5'8". You need
You
to
had a shit game. Deal with it.
Yeah, like he's been so off since Origin. I think he did his knee, and then since he's come back from that, he's not been the same bloke on field at least. So that needs to be fixed because Cleary can't do it all himself. No player can. You look at Manly and Turbo. Yeah, it works against bottom teams, but you look at Melbourne, just shut it down. We shut it down. Those top 4 teams, you need to have more than one player be the go-to guy for your team. And if Luai doesn't step up and play like he did pre-Origin, we've got no chance. We're done.
Like a big part of what got him into Origin was his form, but he just, yeah, like you said, he just hasn't had it since he came out.
He doesn't have any running threat at the moment. It's all pass, early pass. He pretty much will only run now if there's this massive gap in front of him. Like his step is completely gone. I don't know if he's lost confidence in the knee since that injury after Origin. But
I mean, it's
I don't
quite
know.
possible.
Like, because he has that big left foot step he does, but it's gone. It's completely just disappeared. So I don't know.
We like to think that we probably should, so that's probably enough in a game like that.
Was there a sense of panic? Do you think this side hasn't trailed in a lot of games this year?
No, I don't think there was a sense of.
That's a bit strange because South were giving it to us. Like, pretty much since Origin, a lot of our games have been the other team have won the first 20 minutes or so. And then the bench comes on and we sort of roll through the second half really well and all that. So I thought that was a bit of a silly question, honestly. Like, you're also used to playing for 80 minutes. They play field position, they play possession, they execute, and it's that relentless 80-minute performance which wins them the game.
Been a lot of those silly questions in press conferences this year.
Yeah, it's like, I know they got to ask something, and there's probably only so many things you can ask about a game of football, but like if you've seen any of our games for the last month of the season or finals, you'd know that's been happening anyway.
Panic. It was just, it couldn't quite ice it, or, a lot of times in the game, they were able to get a leg up for, just little things, high tackles, little supposed crush.
Yeah, like, I can't remember who it was now. Maybe it was Fish, and like barely touched it, like literally it hit his shoulder, hit the South player's shoulder, and there was almost no contact whatsoever. And it was a high tackle penalty. And it's the same as the Pangai one where the replay showed there was no leg in there, but they said he kicked the ball out. It's like these little things just built up.
Tackles, that kind of stuff.
Hey,
I was just saying, yeah, that was a stupid call.
like
It reminds me of that one late in the game, I think it was as well, where you had just gotten the ball back. Actually, no, you hadn't got. So you kicked it, and I think it was like 20 meters out. A Rabbits player, like you contested it, but then it was sort of kicked forward by the Rabbits player, picked up and juggled by one of your players who looked like he knocked it on into his. But it hit his leg, like he dropped it, hit his leg, and then went behind him.
yeah,
I think that was the one you challenged. Did you challenge that?
not off the top of my head.
Oh, I can't even like exactly remember who was involved, but I was watching it and I thought, hang on, that kind of looks like there hasn't actually been a knock on because yeah, he drops it, but he drops it into his own leg and then it goes behind him. And then the player who tries to pick it up behind him puts his hand on it and doesn't really look like his hand ever comes off it at any point. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was one of those things where I was like, very, very strange call, but maybe the right one.
But they were definitely getting the 50-50s though. But you
Yeah, now
have
you know how
to,
Tigers fans feel.
yeah. But like if you're going to be, but the way I see it is, if you're going to be a top 14 going for a premiership, you have to be able to win games when you don't get those calls. Like if you're not, you have to be good enough to defend when things go against you. Otherwise, you won't win a comp.
Yeah, something the Tigers can't do.
Yeah, and we didn't do it last night. It just didn't happen. Like I'm the more I think about it, the happier I am that we got within 6 points, considering how dominant South really were. Like even without looking at penalty counts and stuff, and some of those bad calls, like they really wanted it. They played out of their skins, and the fact that we South playing so well and those 50-50 sort of calls against us, and to still be within 6 points is actually kind of crazy to me.
It's a credit to how you guys can actually play.
Yeah, like
'Cause, yeah, you did defend most of your errors.
yeah, like what happens when we do execute? Like I kind of feel sorry for the other team when that happens because we're going to put points on them.
It happened so often tonight where we just, particularly in the first half as a period there, I really thought we were gaining ascendancy, and I think they came up with a one-on-one strip, which is good play by them, and then a false crusher.
And with that, Fish was on the ground, and he's basically gone onto his back. So he's trying to strip the ball, and he's fallen onto his back, and then the South players ripped it out. I thought that should have been held. Like if you're laying
That
on the,
is usually when they call held.
yeah, like if you're laying on your back and momentum has stopped, usually they'll call held. But I did notice that was something last night. In general, he was letting a lot of tackles go for a very long time, and it was both ways. So it wasn't like some specific thing one way or the other. It was just he was allowing players to be in the tackles for a very long time. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Like, I don't know if he's just giving the opportunity for second phase play and didn't want to get in the way of that too much or not, but it really was really noticeable in comparison to other games.
Yeah, and like the other thing he mentioned there as well, the crusher tackles.
My God.
My concerns about the crusher tackles have been players, and commentators have said the same thing throughout the years, like players turning around in the tackle and going down that way so that there is pressure on the neck. Like, how does a defending player in that situation prevent a crusher from happening? Because obviously they're trying to make sure, because when the player who's getting tackled turns their body in the tackle, chances are they're trying for an offload. You've got to try and prevent that offload. But it's hard to do that when you're now behind the player, and like obviously their neck is in the way of you getting to wherever it is they're holding the ball.
Well, to give you an idea, both crushers, we had 2 of them last night. Neither of them are charged.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've gone away and they've looked at it on video and gone, no, they're not worth charges. I said the only person who's got a charge from our game for us is Kickout, and he's a monetary fine for dangerous contact.
Like you compare that to the crusher that Little and McKaylee were charged for against the Cowboys. They were both charged for the same tackle.
Yeah,
They
which
were
is
both involved in that same crusher.
Yeah, which is weird. You think a crusher tackle, it'd be one player who gets charged for the actual crusher like movement. But like last night with that, like the first crusher, there was pretty much no contact on the neck. It just looked like it was in a sort of position for it. But the Penrith player, instead of laying down onto him, you could see he stood up so as not to put pressure down.
Yeah.
But because it sort of looked similar to a crusher, it was given a penalty. And that happened a lot last night where it was like, oh, well, it looks like this happened, so we're just going to call it and hope for the best. And it's like, okay, very strange refereeing technique. I hope that's not how the rest of the games are going to go. Like, you can't penalize on suspicion.
And like the players play for it too. Like that's a well-known fact. The players
Yeah.
do play for it. They do tend to milk it if they get
Yeah.
the opportunity.
And
to
the
do
other
so.
one, they weren't going to call it until one of the South players started yelling about it.
Yeah, that was a very delayed call.
And then the guy who had been tackled started playing it up and holding his neck and everything. And it's like, everyone talks about diving, like, especially like kick out, like we cop it a bit this year. And it's like, but look, you get rewarded for it. The NRL is specifically telling you, if you do this, we will reward your team. You don't want players to dive. Like, you know,
Don't encourage it.
don't encourage it. It's ridiculous.
All they're doing is encouraging it.
Yeah, they're like, if you do this, we'll give you a penalty. Have some free meters upfield. Go on. Alright.
So we just, it was one of those nights, you know. So but credit to South. So they obviously put a lot into that game, and yeah.
You say false crusher, but reality is they could be costly suspensions wise. They've been pretty harsh on crushers. I think it was Isaiah, Liam Martin as well got done. They can.
Well, I was just talking about Liam's one. Like, you know, I don't know about the other ones, but that was that was not a crusher tackle, not even anywhere near it. So he didn't even put on report, I don't think. So
Yeah. So that's what I was saying about there's no charges. Neither of the crusher tackles have been charged. So there's a disconnect between what's happening on the field and then when they look at it and they go, no. I'm sure you probably have that same thing across all the other games as well, where it's like this big disconnect in what the rule is and
Yeah.
like what the referees are analyzing in the game. And maybe it's because they're on the run, so it's a bit harder, and maybe then we've got to be a bit more lenient because the guys in the match review and all that have actual video cameras and they can watch things multiple times and do their thing. Maybe we've got to be more forgiving. I don't know.
There's a lot of being unsure about exactly what is and isn't permissible, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe the right
It was
word.
like, you look, who was it? There was a Roosters player, I'm pretty sure, recently got like a 2-week suspension for a crusher.
I remember the one you're talking about.
Yeah, just on the top of my head. But like, if I was a Roosters fan, I would actually be a bit annoyed that then last night we have 2 crushers and there's no charges at all. Like, I can kind of be happy that, yes, I've got these players available for next week because we're going to need them for a knockout final. But if I was on the other side of that with a Roosters fan and you're looking, my player just got done for 2 weeks for a crusher tackle and then these guys got off scot-free, I'd be pissed.
Understandably so.
Like, you know, you would be like, she's like, what the hell? Why is my team copping that? And then everyone else getting a free ride, essentially. Like, that inconsistency is where it's infuriating, especially because, okay, maybe the referee, when things are moving quickly on the field, you know, has to make that decision really quickly. But what's the match review doing? They have camera angles and slow motion. They can. So why are they inconsistent? Why are the guys with the technology the inconsistent ones?
Like, it's not only the match review committee, it's the bunker as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's these guys where they have camera angles and slow motion and high definition, and they've got all the technology they could ask for, and they're the ones who are all being massively inconsistent. At least like where I was talking about before, where like a lot of the play the balls were really quite slow, where players were able to hold in the tackles a lot longer. At least the referee he had a standard that he was allowing in game, and it went both ways. Like, the on-field refs, as much as they're able to, are being consistent with themselves during that 80 minutes. And then you take the guys with the big screens and the technology and the time. They get more time than the on-field refs, and they can't be consistent with themselves. Like, maybe Ainsley needs to be the one there doing it, since he's the one coming out giving apologies every couple of weeks. Oh, we got it wrong.
Like, the biggest example we saw of the bunker getting it wrong was the Joey Manu versus Latrell incident.
Yeah, like, how do you screw that up?
Like, they had so much time to review that, and it was only after
Yeah, after
Manu
there was a fight.
reacted
they're like, oh yeah, we better call this. Like Robinson had the big whinge, but he was right. He was completely correct. Like, why are we only calling it after the player with the broken face gets into a push and shove?
The
Like,
thing is, Robinson has Politis, who's going to pay those fines for him. So
yeah,
he has
like,
the freedom to say what the fuck he wants in these press conferences because he knows that Politis has got his back.
yeah, exactly. Like, everyone talks about Ivan in his press conference here, but I think Robbo wins the
People also say why it doesn't match.
yeah.
Talk about refereeing and stuff in his press conferences. It's like, well, Basco's not going to foot the bill for
No,
match.
I can't see
Speaking of
that,
mind.
but I think Robinson definitely gets Dally M press conference of the year.
Yeah, he's taken that title off Ricky Stewart this year.
Yeah, like he's one of the big reasons we had crackdowns earlier in the year. Because he kept bringing up like, what the hell, like, especially after I think it was the Eels game, and the Rooster player copped knees into the back. He ended up with I think he ended up with a punctured lung. Actually, it was a pretty bad injury.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, and from there it kind of snowballed, and Robinson started really getting on it in his press conferences, and then they had the crackdown.
Ivan, you've got to go around the long way now. Historically, it's been impossible. Can they do it? Can they be
Possible.
Oh, not impossible. Very hard to do.
You said it was impossible.
Sorry, I didn't mean my mistake. Are they up?
To be fair, he said historically it's been impossible.
Doesn't mean it won't be this year.
Yeah, but history
The
tells
stats
us
aren't looking good.
no, and it's the same as so far. Nobody in the NRL era has won from outside the top four. Like,
And the whole not being able to win the premiership after you concede 50
yeah,
game.
like it doesn't mean these things won't happen eventually at some point. Like the Roosters going back to back, which hadn't happened for God knows how long, if ever. But I don't think in the NRL era it's happened at all. But so far, the stats are not in our favor. What was that? What is that movie? May the odds be ever in your favor. The Hunger Games.
Especially when you now have to look at the fact that you will have to go through Melbourne to get to the grand final.
Yeah,
That is probably the biggest obstacle, is the fact that it's not so much the stats, it's your opposition in that game.
Yeah, which is why it's so hard. Because you get chucked onto the other side of the draw, then you have to win each game. You don't get that rest. So we just got bashed by South. There's no other way to say it. That was a physically grueling game. By the end of that game, I don't know if you noticed, but they were fatigued as fuck. Like Crichton could barely run. It was pretty much at a jog at the end, and he looked like he just couldn't move his legs. Fish was absolutely gone. Like, they were fatigued as hell and got absolutely bashed by South. And credit to South that they earned that. They worked hard for that and they achieved it. So now we've got to, instead of getting a rest, we've got to play through that, and these guys have to lift themselves up again now for another 3 games in a row if they want to win the premiership, with one of those being the Storm in the finals, who are traditionally able to go up an extra step each week.
Advantage you have now, though, over whoever wins today, is the fact you've got that extra day to rest.
That'll be a big advantage. Especially
whoever wins today is only going to have a 6-day turnaround.
Yeah,
Just
especially
like the Roosters only have a 6-day turnaround before they play Manly.
Especially with today's game being a knockout final. They're playing for their lives, so they've got to put 110% into that. Like, it's going to be a physical game, you would imagine.
Yeah, and then get up for another game 6 days later, regardless of who wins.
So it's a decent turnaround, but yeah, we'll see. Like, if we show up the right mentality, I think we win pretty well. Like, I don't think either of those teams, at least this year, will trouble us too much. But it depends if they show up with the same mentality of last night. We need Leota back, and we need them to be switched on. Luai needs to start executing, blah, 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 all that stuff. Like, it's... Because if we're down like last night, then either Knights or the Eels will then have the ability to go over the top of you guys. Like Ponga will just run rings around you.
for it? Are they a good enough side to get back up and get this premiership?
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that's the challenge ahead of us. You know, we had to win 3 games to. Once we hit the finals, with 3 games to win it, and nothing's changed. So, you know, I don't think we lose too many friends from tonight. So, as I said, I think it was really just come down to opportunities that we did nice. That we probably you need to win those games. I mean, that's just facts. So, yeah, if we tidy that up, I think we'll give ourselves every chance to go well again next week.
2 words: Jerome Luai. This is going to be
Tidy your shit up.
Yeah, this is going to be me for the next week until we play again. Is he needs to pick him shit up. Like, he sits on the left in his little corridor, and at the moment he's just dumping off to kick Alan Burton. Just this constant, like, he needs to remember what he's good at. He has a very good short kicking game. He's an excellent runner of the ball, and he has good pass selection, but it's like he's down on confidence or something, and he's just early passing off to these guys. Like Kikau, I remember there was one that was really, really bloody obvious, and you could see it coming. And he sort of drifted out and dropped Kikau back under, and Kikau got absolutely smashed. You could see it coming before it even happened, and I'm like, because Luai is just in that mode now where the defense isn't worried about him anymore. They're just like, right, who's the support runner that we have to target? Whereas before, he'd drift across, but because he was a threat, he was able to engage those defenders and create the space.
Yep.
It's not happening at the moment.
Were those opportunities because of stagnations in attack, or was it South's defence that were up for it tonight?
I'm sure they're up for it. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, there was definitely things that we could control that we could have done better. So, yeah. It
was definitely a bit of both.
Bit of everything, yeah.
Yeah, I love that freeze frame.
He looks stoned out of his gourd.
You can see he's he's on something to dull the pain, I think.
He's done with everything.
He's like, that's it. It's done. I'm done. These guys are just killing me.
Yeah, seriously, killing my vibe, man.
But that's what they never looked at threatening. I think they had like a little bit in the first half where they looked switched on. But even at the end when Kikau made that break, like, you weren't entirely confident they were going to convert it into something. And sure as shit, he just threw it into the ground instead of actually like passing to Burton. All he had to do was pop it up in the air a little bit, and Burton would have come through and caught it. Like, just little things constantly they just couldn't execute. And when they were running their plays, it looked really slow. Like they were practicing a training run or something. Like, you could see where Yo would get the ball and then pass out to the back to Nathan, or Nathan would get the ball and then pass out the back to Luai, or whatever they were doing. You could see it all coming. You could see it like 2 steps ahead of where it was. And it was like, man, this is weird. Because that's very unpenrith-like.
How's Nathan after that shot from Keon Kalamatangi? He looked a bit ginger after it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's okay. Yeah.
There was a lot of talk about that during the week, Ivan, about Nathan being targeted and the blocks and stuff.
I'm gonna say that was a pretty soft penalty. Like,
there were many in the game.
Yeah, like, I know they were looking out for that because of the talk during the week, and technically, yeah, it's a penalty because penalty wasn't for hitting him late. It was the fact that he sort of charged into him and didn't really make a tackle. Like, if he'd wrapped his arms around him and completed the tackle, he wouldn't have been penalized. I don't know if many people realize the distinction in the penalty there. So what happened was he kind of chest bumped him and knocked him flying back after he kicked it. And he's like, and the refs basically penalized him because that's not a proper tackle, so to speak.
Yeah.
So hopefully people realize the difference with that. Like, if he'd wrapped his arms around him, took him to the ground, maybe give him a little kiss or something. I don't know. You know, I think he would have been right.
Is that what you're kind of referring to when you talk about Nathan getting hit at times, probably unfairly?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably guilty of what. Yeah, I was personally guilty of trying to, I guess, put our case forward this week, only because I had to, because I had to respond. It's probably not the forum to talk about it, but the NRL has got to make a decision on whether they're going to allow coaches to.
Yeah, that's a part that people miss, is where he's like, he said straight up, like, I'm guilty of it too. So the following rant is the part where it all gets really juicy.
I am prepared.
Yeah, where we start getting
My
into
body
the.
is ready.
Yeah, we start getting into the meat of it all. But he does start off saying, like, I'm guilty of it too. So I think it's more just, he's actually talking about the system in general, where it's like, if they come into a press conference and they bag the refs or try and do whatever they do here, they get fined. And he's been fined a couple of times now.
Yeah.
We've seen it with other coaches as well. Yet if they do the exact same thing sort of midweek, it gets let go, and you quite often see results of it, you know, in the following game, like you did last night, where we got a penalty because of the tackle on Nathan, or the refs were being super cautious about not seeming biased against South. It was in their minds, whether they meant to or not. Might have been an unconscious thing where they were just a bit worried about these things and thinking about them during the week. It came out in the officiating in the game. You could see it straight up. So it's like, so his point is fairly valid. It just, the timing of it and the way it all worked made it look super awkward.
Yeah, definitely.
Deliberately manipulate referees and try and influence them. Coaches do it because they can, you know. We get fined afterwards, but pre-game, yeah, you can. It's pretty much open slather, I think. So, you know, our boys were certainly being spoken to on the run for stuff that we never get done for. So, I'd say.
Yeah. See, like, you could see the refs were very much thinking about that whole, like, since we played them like 3 weeks ago, there's been so much talk about the refs cheating in favor of Souths, like fans and whatnot. It's like you could see it was obviously in their heads. They were trying hard to come across as not biased, and all they have to do is officiate the rules.
Exactly.
Like, how hard is that? You're not like, it always bugs me is people want refs to be game managers, like it's the WWE wrestling or something. It's like, no, we're a professional sporting competition. Just go out there and officiate the rules and let the players, if they don't want to give away too many penalties, well, then stop breaking the damn rules. Like, it's not
That's
that
why
hard.
the rules are there.
Yeah, like it really bugs me how people want the ref to manage an entertaining game. I'm like, no, fuck off. Let the players sort that out. If they don't want to lose with a 20-0 penalty count against them, well, follow the damn rules. Like, you're gonna have some incidental stuff like high tackles that you can't avoid or whatever, little things here and there. But, you know, generally speaking, you can be all right if you're a bit disciplined. I guarantee you, if the refs were coming out and just penalising shit because it needed penalising, in 6 months, Bellamy and Robinson would have their teams at the set standard where they needed to be to win the comp.
Definitely.
Like, because they actually know how to coach. So there's no reason all the other professional coaches can't do the same thing.
Suggest that, yeah, that type of thing has an influence. As I said, I was guilty of it myself because I had to, because, you know, we had to respond. But I think the game could do itself a favour and come down on any coach who wants to try and deliberately influence a match official before a game.
See, and he says any coach. So by definition, that includes
Choosing his
himself.
words carefully.
Yeah, he doesn't go after any particular individuals, but by definition, like if he says something later, and say this week he says something about the refs midweek in one of his press conferences, whatever, and the NRL say, well, you get a fine for that. On the weekend, you said they need to address this. Well, he now has no argument. Yes, he did.
Yep.
So, and I don't disagree with him. I think, you know, the whole manipulating the refs is a bit dodgy. Just win the game.
Do you
Well, you
reckon?
can-
Sorry. Do you reckon he'll be in trouble / fined for anything that he said so far in this one? Do you think they'd fine him for like false crushes or anything like that?
I don't think so, because he hasn't really. I don't think he's directly brought in the integrity of the refs. I think he's put it onto the coaches. Like the coaches are the ones who are being wrong, and that the NRL need to. So he's like saying, hey, as coaches are getting in the heads of the referees, you should probably keep an eye on that, maybe fine us. And he's included himself in that. So it's like he's kind of put the blame elsewhere. That makes sense. He's pointed his finger at a slightly different spot to achieve the same result.
Yeah, righto.
So when the NRL look at it, they'll go, okay, fine. It's slightly different. Like he hasn't directly come out and said, yeah, the ref sort of cheated or whatever. Like he's more saying that, you know, the same system that gives fines for their post-match stuff should apply to pre-game as well. But I think he just skates by, just like he's on that line. It's that fine line he's treading. He's tightrope walking, I think. It's a very lawyer speak.
In terms of public commentary, Ivan, or in terms of direct approaches to
Well,
NRL?
no, public commentary. It's, you know, I don't have to, and I don't, you know, I'm actually not blaming anybody. Maybe the game likes that stuff, you know. I get it. It's, you know, you guys all froth over it, so it's good clickbait and all that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
Oh,
Ivan's hipping with the times, as you can see.
Oh, he's got it good. Someone's been surfing the forums. But like, he's not wrong. I mean, I think he's hit the nail on the head there.
Oh, he definitely has.
But the media love it. He's right. They definitely froth over it, and then you get like 4 articles a day for like 2 weeks talking about it.
Yeah.
Instead of actual football, and then it's like, oh, because they don't know how to actually talk the game up. They rather drama. It's like some big sitcom or fucking something.
I think it's terribly unfair on referees that they, you know, that we're able to do that to them.
Do you think it was unfair?
Yeah. See, there, you would have heard he said they're actually being unfair on referees as coaches.
Yeah, using we.
Yeah, and he said we, which is inclusive of himself. So that's, I think, where he would avoid the fine sort of thing there, because he's coming across as, hey, we're in the wrong, not the ref's fault. So he's
Good on you, Ivan, calling yourself out for your own shit too.
Yeah, I know you did it during the week. But like, and that's why I don't think it's as bad as people make out. I think it's just, but it is a good way to also get people talking about Ivan himself. And
Get the
next
focus
week
off the
as
team.
well. And no doubt this is as well next week. Then the refs are going to have to look at that and be like, oh, Penrith's got a bit raw deal in the South game. We're going to have to be aware of that. Like, it's his little lawyer speak way of getting around things, and now he's put it into the mind of the refs. Like where he said before, our players were getting called out and spoke to about things that, you know, never happens in games like before, where they've never really been spoken about before, so it was really unusual. So now next week, whoever's officiating is going to have to be aware of that again. It's like they'll go and probably do a midweek review for the referees if they do that sort of thing, and these press conferences are probably going to be part of it.
Gotta love the mind games, eh?
Yeah. Oh, finals time is wonderful.
There that Wayne kind of at points insinuated Penrith are cheating. The fact that he's saying that was practice and that it's obviously a legal move to move sideways in block plays.
Well, has he been sanctioned for it? No. So no, he's allowed to. If you allow it to happen, it will happen. Yeah. So that's up to the NRL. If they don't care, that's fine. Like you know. Yeah. Like
He said, "Well, if the NRL allow it, who cares?" Like if it's something they want, like he's specifically saying, if the NRL allow coaches to do it, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Either penalize it or don't. But
Take your pick.
yeah,
Flip a
I
coin.
said, I probably.
exactly. It's like, you know, they've already got the rule with the wall, like we saw Roosters, but you know, those ones are blatant, should get penalised. I know we've been penalised at least once. I think it was 2017 or 2018. It was a game we got penalised for it. But you're definitely not supposed to have the wall.
It was similar to when we mentioned a few weeks ago in this stream the 2018 game between the Tigers and the Broncos, Campbelltown.
Yeah. There was one last night where they wanted to complain about blockers. That was one of Wayne Bennett's points during the week. There was one last night on a fifth tackle, and one of the South players was standing next to the play the ball, as every single team does. I don't know why Penrith got called out for it. And the South player grabbed Mitch Kenny, I think it was, as he was trying to keep pressure on. He grabbed him, he put his arm around him and sort of stopped him. Go quickly. I'm like, and players do that a lot. If you notice, if you pay close attention, you'll see it a lot. And it's like, you do realize that the attacking players just literally basically tackle the defender. Like, how are these getting let go?
There were also a few examples of escorts that were let go last night as well.
Yeah.
I did notice a few. I think a few of them might have been played for, and when I say that, I'm talking about one that was late in the game where I think one of your boys made himself look like he was run off the ball to try and get the call.
I think I know the one. I think I know the one you're talking about. It might have been Liam Martin, where he's like,
Kind of looked like he took a dive.
where he's running, just runs straight into the player and then fallen over. Because I remember thinking,
Yeah.
I remember being a bit irritated at the time. I'm like, why are you playing for the penalty?
It's Cherry Evans style.
Yeah, because I think the way the rule works off the top of my head is the defender, if he can get there first, plant himself, and then if he's in the spot still and just sitting there, that's okay. It's if he gets there simultaneously or after the play and sort of runs him off the ball. But the fact that the South player is just standing there minding his own business and then Liam Martin just runs into the back of him, well, you're not getting a penalty for that.
No, because it's pretty bloody obvious what you were trying to do, Liam.
Like, you're obviously just trying to draw a penalty, and that's twice in the game he did it. The first one was the one that everyone blames Charlie Staines for the try, and Liam Martin could have gone for Gay Guy, but he kind of stops in his run. It's really subtle because everyone's watching Gay Guy and Staines, but just down in the screen where you watch it, Martin actually has a play at him, but he sort of chooses not to, and he's like, it's like he's trying to play for an obstruction penalty or something. And I'm like, what the hell are they? I don't understand. It definitely shows the mentality last night where they weren't prepared to just win the game on their football. They were looking for easy ways out.
Yep.
But again, you won't hear anything about these Liam Martin moments. There was those two plus a knock on. Yeah.
All the focus will be on Staines.
Yeah, all the focus will be on Staines because people just have that natural bias. It's
to
like,
a lesser extent, Luai.
yeah, and to him, like he'll skate through it. No one will mention it. I don't think you'll see anyone mention. I think there might be one Panthers fan that I know who's been saying since Origin how Luai's been down and everyone's been giving him shit on League Unlimited forums. But he's right. But nobody wants to accept the truth. It's like, no, you can't talk bad about certain players, you know. And I'll admit, I've even like had a few things about Edwards where I'm like, man, he could probably use a bit of ball playing, and long term he probably won't be our fullback. But right now we need him. But people are like, no, you can't say stuff like that. It's like, okay. You know, Luai has actually been garbage, right? Since Origin. Like if we have the Luai pre-Origin Luai last night, we probably win.
If you had pre-Origin Luai in round 24, you put 50 on the Tigers too.
Yeah, like they get absolutely mauled. Like it's horribly, like I don't, it's so. So poor Charlie, and everyone, and it's weird because like this is his first season of first grade, and he's, you know, like 20 or something. He's like 19 or 20.
Like he had the debut to remember last year, and everyone loved him, but he didn't play much after that debut last year. But he's had a bit more game time this year, and yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and no one's saying he's a superstar right now. Like he's probably not really made to be an NRL winger, and he probably does need a good off season to put maybe another 5 kilos on. I think he'd really benefit from that. But I don't know, he's definitely an easy target and copying it when he shouldn't be.
Obviously, because he's still young, he's got maturing to do as well.
Yeah, like he'll grow into his body as an NRL player. You look at Nathan Cleary, he debuted and he's put on like 10 kilos since, and now looks like one of the best players in the game. Like, because he's developed his game over that time, worked hard. But I'm like, let's not give up on a guy like Charlie just after half a season.
Yeah, like half of a season that's been underwhelming. Like there's plenty more of the career to go.
Yeah, and as a team, they've been underwhelming since Origin, and we really single out one guy who's been playing on the damn wing of all positions.
Especially when you consider who he replaced and who his wing, like who his other winger is.
Yeah.
Like you look at like we said earlier, you look at those names, and those are big names to live up to. Yeah, Mansour had a horrible start to the year. Like he played round 1 and then was dropped for a few weeks or something, but
Hey,
he's come
NSL's
back
here.
and really stamped himself.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I imagine internally they're things that they'll look at, but as a fan base, people are definitely avoiding or ignoring the obvious stuff there. And fair enough, people are emotional and they don't like to have that, but you've got to be realistic.
And like you've just lost a qualifying final. There's going to be plenty of emotion.
Like most it's funny, nearly probably the majority of comments, I'd say probably 80% if I had to put a number to it, are all talking down Charlie Staines from Penrith fans. Like he was like our 3rd or 4th highest run meters for the game. He found his front more than Toto did last night.
Yeah,
Like
he had feel a little bit bad for him.
Like he had that chip where it was literally just a bad bounce where he went across into the middle of the field. Like he did everything that he's been criticized for not doing earlier in the year, and it's still not good enough. I don't think, unless he scored like 3 tries, I don't think he was ever gonna get any kind of good faith from the fan base.
Just sad considering like he is young and he is still trying to own his craft.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's crazy. In a team where you could probably single out 3 guys who played well, and funny enough, I would probably put Charlie in it's sort of not quite played well, but played average.
Played decent.
Yeah, like, or he did a reasonable enough job. Considering he's on the wing, like you're not expecting a lot from your wingers when your middle gets owned. Like he ran more than most of our forwards did. I mean, what the hell do you expect? You know, like I think he's like 85 kilos or something like that. Playing in his first year of football, and he still ran for more meters against a set defensive line than our entire forward pack. As we pointed out before, the 2 starting props combined made 5 or 6 more meters than he did. And that, you look at that and your head in your hands and want to kind of cry a little bit. How can you single out a winger for that? The middle just shat itself completely.
Yeah, middles, get your shit together.
That's what I'd be like. I'd be saying this week. I'd be like, what the fuck happened? And I'd be saying to Eisenhuth, there's a mop and bucket. Your contribution to the team can be mopping out the dressing room.
And it's also kind of similar to the criticism that Brooksy cops for so many years before this year, really, and even to an extent this year. A lot of the criticism on Brooksy has been, well, he's not the one to lead the team. He's not a good halfback. But in saying that, like, the halfback has to have a good forward pack to help him out. And he just hasn't had that. Like,
Yeah.
For years, our best forward was Aaron Woods, and he was pretty fucking garbage.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. If you lose the middle, if your forward rotation doesn't do its job, no one else can do it. Hey, NSL, how you doing? Do you think Tafe was underrated last night? No, I thought he was really good, and a lot of people have spoken about how well he did. We mentioned it earlier where he dropped that first kick, and then since then, I don't think he had another error. Off the top of my head.
I'll
Maybe
check
one more. Yeah, check his stats. I've got the press conference up, so I can't really go through the internet. But
yeah, you keep that. I'll check the stats.
I've seen a few comments this morning talking about how well he handled it after that first drop. So I think everyone's rating him where he deserves to be. I think
he also has a lot of pressure to live up to Latrell Mitchell and what Latrell does.
I mean,
but he handled it pretty well, I'd say.
Just the idea of coming into a top 4 team with premiership aspirations and having to play through the final series, it's a lot of pressure in and of itself, and then having to, obviously, like you said, fill in for a high profile guy like Latrell Mitchell as well on top of that. It's not an easy thing to do. So the fact that he had that one bad error and then the rest of his night was pretty good.
Yep, Taff just made the one error.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people mention how well he sort of composed himself. So I think, I think he'll be good.
Qualifying final player ratings. I'll just read out what they've said in the player ratings article on NRL.com.
Oh, here we go.
Blake Taff showed a nice right foot step early, kept his patience in the in goal, and while he dropped the first Nathan Cleary bomb, he didn't make a mess of subsequent kicks from Cleary, Jerome Luai, or Matt Burton. Made 68 of his 99 metres in kick returns and set up Jackson Paulo for South's second try, 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's pretty decent.
As for players who scored higher than him, Reynolds with 8.5.
They better have given Burgess a 10. That was, for a prop, that's about as best you can ask for.
And Tom Burgess a 9.
What did he do wrong? I can't really think of much.
Arrow, Murray, Totola, Cook, Walker all equaled him at 7.5.
That's bollocks. He definitely outplayed a couple of those. Like, they all played really well, no doubt, but I think Burgess was probably their best. I would have given Burgess the 3 Dalian points and 10 out of 10 for the way he played.
Tom Burgess constantly poked his nose through the line, dragging defenders with him, 77 post contact meters. As soon as he made his entry in the 19th minute, defied the heat for a big man to make 21 runs and 212 meters.
Yeah, like, for a prop, get stuffed, he wasn't best on field.
Okay, let's have a little bit of a guessing game. So you said you think Staines would have the 3rd highest rating for a Panther. Is that what you said? He was probably 3rd best?
Oh, I think when it comes to like ratings, I think he's going to probably get the worst. But I think he deserves. Okay. I think he deserves to be thought of a bit better because his game wasn't as bad as everyone's going to say it was.
All right. So which 3 Panthers do you think would have had the highest scores from last night?
I reckon they'll rate Crichton pretty decently. So hard to think because there were so many, so bad across the board. Kikau will be up there. Who would I pick as the third one? I'll say Yo.
So those are your top three
That'd be my top three for Penrith.
in that order.
Yeah, so yeah, do that.
Crichton, Kikau, and Yo.
Yeah.
All right. You got number one right. Crichton top scored with 8.5.
Oh. Because Crichton's problem was he got fatigued due to his early game workload. Like that, he was just, you could see in that second half, he was absolutely gone.
And there were 2 7.5s.
Uh,
They
who-
were Momorovsky and Yo.
yeah, I can see that.
You weren't far off with kick out. He got 7.
Okay.
So he was literally 4th best.
Yeah. So I thought Kikau would be up there somewhere. Yeah. Momorovsky did have some good moments, especially in the first half. So I'm not going to argue with those ratings. I think they're fair enough. Whoever did that actually, so they watched the game. So congrats to them.
Mark Gately.
There you go.
The ratings for you guys, while
yeah.
Margie McDonald did them for Souths.
Okay, well, those ratings for us, I think, is pretty fair. That's a pretty decent top 4 considering.
And you were spot on with Staines. He equal lowest score out of all of them.
Yeah, I think that's fucked. Like
Staines, Capewell, and Pangai were the 3 that got 4.5.
Yeah, I think that's absolute garbage. That's what I mean. I knew it was going to happen, and it's going to happen with fans, and nobody's going to look at it objectively. Like
This is what it says about Staines. Sorry.
Here we go.
Made good meters. Made good meters early, but a little hit and miss in defence. A costly drop late in the match put Penrith under pressure. I don't think he was actually. Was he that bad in defence? Let me have a look at his.
He had one.
tackle.
He had one bad miss on Gay Guy.
He made 4
Hey,
tackles.
Justin.
He missed 2.
Yeah.
So not all that bad. Well, I mean, he got 15 fantasy points.
Yeah, which and maybe that's what they're using to judge players off of. But the simple fact is, I thought like, okay, he dropped the ball once. Well, Liam Martin did that too, and Liam Martin also twice tried to book penalties that didn't deserve penalties. One time was on the exact same play where Gay Guy set up the try where Staines missed the tackle. And Martin could have covered the inside. Somebody should have covered the inside, but Martin, who was the one who was there, tried to book a penalty instead for obstruction.
Like, even looking at this, the error count for all of your players, Capewell and Kikau 2 each. And then Martin, Fish, Luai, To'o, Burton, Momorovsky, Staines, and Crichton all 1. So every member of your backline except Cleary made an error.
Yeah, exactly. Like he wasn't like that. That doesn't, just from watching the game and then looking at the stats, putting both those things together, he is being treated so unfairly from last night's game. It is garbage, and it's simply because of his name. It's like Jack Hetherington getting bin-binned and fucking suspended for 10 weeks just because he's Jack Hetherington. Staines is getting the same thing. Yeah, it's all on reputation. It's all on just because his name. As soon as his name shows up, everyone's like, "Yep, he's garbage." And it's like, no. He came out and he did every single thing that people have been previously criticizing him for, but it's not good enough. And I don't think it ever will be until he scores like a hat trick. Unless he scores a hat trick in a game, people are gonna be like, "No, not good enough." And even then, I've seen people say, "Well, just tries he scores. It's just nice, easy catch and fall over tries." People will do.
Yeah, what about that 5-try debut last year? If they did player ratings for that, do you reckon a 5-try debut would have gotten him 10 out of 10?
Yeah, like then probably, but now probably not. It'd be like, oh yeah, he got a 5. He dropped the ball once in the first half. Like, scored a
Just
couple of
half
tries.
your
I guess.
score, half your score because of an error.
Yeah, like it's crap. He wasn't in the bottom half of our bad players. Like it's just ridiculous how unfairly he gets sort of treated now because I don't know. It's just built up. It's that public perception thing.
Hey Justin, how did you feel about that win you guys got last week? Finish your season. Because we spent a lot of time talking about it last week, and even then after we ended the stream, we were still and ahhing whether or not I should change my tip for him, and I ended up not doing it.
I did. I changed my tip to the Broncos. I had a gut feeling, and it came off.
Ultimate regret.
But it's funny. Normally, when I change my tips, I end up losing, and then I regret it. So, but
Made me even more sad because I'd be in second in my tipping comp now if I had changed my tip for that one.
yeah. But there's just something there about the Broncos. I think towards the end of the year.
They did a Dogs. The
Yeah.
Dogs of 2019 and 2020, and I think 2018 as well, where they actually decided to show up and play after they were eliminated from the finals race.
It's just whether they can actually continue that momentum, though. Like the Dogs just couldn't do it. Everyone kept saying every year, "Oh, the Dogs have picked it up; they'll come good again," and then they didn't. And then you're like, "Oh, okay." Cool.
I think we'll see early next season. I think we'll see a lot of similar to this season out of the Broncos. But then once Reynolds finds his groove with the team and the connection and the combinations start to develop, then they'll get a lot better.
Yeah. Well,
So they might get off to a slow start, but they'll get good by definitely the Origin period.
Well, just Reynolds playing behind that forward pack is going to be huge for them on its own. Like having a real halfback, like that's going to be insane for them. Like you look at, I think they've had the most halves combinations this year out of any team. Like,
I think they have. Yeah, that's probably fairly accurate.
Like
Tigers might not be too far off.
Yeah, like excluding injuries, I think that's going to be massive for them. Like you can't explain how big that's going to be for them next year because they have an amazing forward pack. Like some of those young forwards they've got coming through is insane. Like you look at Payne Haas, he's already pretty much one of the best props in the game, if not the best. It's crazy how freaking good he is, how big he is, and his motor and so glad he plays for New South Wales.
Touch and go for early in the season.
Yeah,
I think they were saying he might not be good to go for the first couple rounds or something.
Yeah. The good thing, you'd rather obviously have players missing for a little bit at the start and then build up towards the end of the year at least. Like if they can scrape in the 8 somewhere, I'll have him back then at least. So.
Oh, definitely. I feel hyped getting that last game win of the season over the night. Sad that Milf, Coates, and Glenn leaving. King for 2022. Reynolds coming to the club. Yep.
Oh, but I think it had to happen, especially with Alex Glenn. You could just see his time was up. Like he just, I don't know. Not being mean to him.
I'm glad you got to celebrate the end of the season with that win, and it was a good way for Glenn to retire. So
yeah. It's time for a new era at the Broncos. They need to sort themselves out and move on and clean it up, sort of thing.
How are you feeling about today, NSL?
Dominic, big Monday slate coming up. Week 1 is upon us. Yes, the NFL season's starting up. So,
I was about to say, is the NFL about to start?
Yeah, looks like. I'll try and catch what I can. They have so many games, and hopefully, I know Channel 7 here showed their final series last year, so I don't know if they'll be showing it this year. But we'll see. Try and catch a few.
All I know is they had some like preseason trial type matches.
Yeah. See what happens. They can be good. I like the difference. It's a bit slowed down compared to the rugby league. Should be nice sometimes. You can like put it on while you're doing other things, like you're doing housework or whatever. You can have it on and keep an eye on it and
You
stuff
can
like
leave for 5 minutes and you'll miss almost nothing.
that. Yeah. It's almost like a chess game. I think that's between the attack and defense. That's why I liked it. It's like they kind of face off against each other and they're like, what do you got? Ready? Go. And you're like, fuck, fuck, what's happening? And it's sort of, yeah. So it's nice to watch. I like the difference.
Yeah, I thought you'd be feeling good, NSL. We're pretty confident that you'll get the win, but you'll have a
Yeah.
much tougher task next week against the Panthers.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Titans Roosters last night, though. Yeah, we talked a lot about Titans Roosters, and
yeah.
that was a wild ride and a half.
As before, I jumped off the couch and I was like riding them home. That was an insane finish, especially as a neutral where you don't have any emotions riding on it. But
Oh yeah, the Fafita try. We didn't actually talk about the Fafita try. What were your thoughts on that one? The obstruction they called.
do you really want my opinion on that?
Do
I was yelling
Go.
last night about that. I was infuriated, right? So earlier in the year, Kikau was obstructed. He fell over. Needless to say, yes, I'm having an Academy Award sent out to him right now. But on principle, it should have been an obstruction. But the way they called it at the time is the bunker said the defense wasn't impacted. So they made what they call a common sense ruling around it. They said, even though technically it's an obstruction, the defense wasn't technically put out of, like, they were still able to defend. So they still called the try. Then you go to last night, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. The Titans player stopped before the line and no one was impeded. Everyone could still make a play, whatever. And then they call it the obstruction anyway. And I'm like, well, which is it? Are we making common sense, quote unquote, common sense rules, or are we calling them black and white? You can't flip flop between games because, like, I like going into a game knowing what the standard of officiating is going to be, at least on generally speaking. Yeah, you might have a few calls here and there that are a bit off, and you're like, well, fair enough. But that's literally just, they can't decide whether they want to do black and white rules or whether they're using discretion. They're flip-flopping between those two things, and that's what pisses me off. It's like, well, if you called that like one against us earlier in the year, then it's a try. But if you call it like half the other games in the year, it's not a try. So fucking pick one.
And same sort of deal to Tigers v Sharks with the
scrum
Dewey
one.
no try. Yeah, that one.
It's the exact same thing. It's like,
how was the defense
they weren't.
affected by something that happens every single time there's a fucking scrum?
They tell them to lock in. They're supposed to. The ref stops the
They're not.
scrum.
They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to break until the ref calls break.
Yes. If they're not locked in properly, they will literally tell the scrum to break off and then reform until they do it properly. Yet he got penalized for actually forming the scrum properly.
Doing what he was told to do.
I'm like, what are you... This is why fans get angry, because you don't know what to expect going into a game with the rules. You've got to cross your fingers and toes and maybe sacrifice some chickens to the football gods in the hopes that get some kind of refereeing that makes sense.
And when do the Tigers ever get that?
It's a lottery. And the worst part is, as we said before, where you mentioned it, the bunker is making half these calls, if not the majority of these calls. And they have the benefit of camera angles. The biggest one is time. They have time that the ref on the field doesn't have. Like, so how are they the ones screwing this up?
Because, like, the game is stopped.
Yeah, the game stopped.
While they're going through whatever they're going through, the game is stopped.
Like they don't.
And even then, this year they've introduced that rule or that thing where if it's happened recently, like within the last set, the bunker can get the message out to the ref and they can go back and award a penalty for it. Like we've seen it multiple times.
They're not under a time limit. I thought if it's the one I'm thinking of, I actually thought the pass was fine.
The tap on.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Like when they call it forward, I thought they were a bit hard done by actually. But
there was one later on that I thought should have been called forward. If that one was called forward, that ended up not being called forward. So,
but again, that's another one that's a lottery. Just put your numbers in and hope you sort of win the 20 million, because forward passes are the biggest bone of contention, I think, with officiating at the moment.
Especially when you're playing against the Storm.
Like, it's like dummy halves at the moment across the competition have learnt that you can throw forward passes from dummy half, and 99% of the time you won't get called for it. They know it. So they use that. They jump out, they throw that slightly forward one that looks a little bit borderline. The ref lets it go. They'll call it up once every like 4 or 5 games or something.
Probably shouldn't have brought it up, but I believe in it. You know, I think the referees department spend way too much time going through complaints from coaches every week. And yeah, I occasionally do it. We're probably a 1 out of 10. And I think it's not how is the referees department supposed to get better when they basically they're clogged up with constantly having to deal with clubs complaining throughout the week.
So stop doing it. No, that's just me.
No, it's not just you.
He sat there and said, "Oh, we do it too." Okay, so don't do it.
Yeah, pretty simple, eh?
Yeah, but I do see his point at the same time, though, where it's like they know other coaches are going to do it, so every coach knows that every other coach is going to do it, and it's like whether you agree with it or not, you kind of have to. Otherwise, it becomes very one-sided. So then when the referee goes into the game, they've had a week of in their mind thinking of one team, and you can't really have them doing that. I don't know, maybe they're right. Maybe they should just tell coaches to fuck off and leave the refs alone and do your own job.
I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult.
No, it's like they were talking about with the kick blockers. Like if they were doing something illegal, then penalize them. If they're not, then don't. I said it in a comment the other day. Either penalize it or don't. Just be consistent. Everyone's doing it. It all seems very meh to me. Like they're making a big deal out of nothing. So that's why I think Ivan's just trying to take the pressure off the team and onto himself. So you watch all the Fox League articles over the week now come out about Ivan in his press conference.
Yeah, they might leave the Tigers alone for a week. That'd be nice.
So you go. So he's paying you back. And finally, he's like, man, how do I help the Tigers out? Here we go.
That's something to work at.
NSL, I seen Nick tipped against my team because the Knights backline and forward pack seem equal, which I agree with. Plus, I'm also concerned about Ray Stone today with Lussick in the reserves. I didn't even see they had dropped Lussick. I thought Lussick was injured. Was Lussick injured? I don't even know.
How wary of that tonight were you, Ivan? Like before the game, were you concerned that
No, it's not just tonight. It goes on all year, but it's obviously heightened at finals time. You just got to go back in history. It always happens, but as I said, if it's allowed to happen, then I can't knock anyone for doing it. Yeah.
Do you think having 2 refs out there, like we've seen in seasons past, might help police that?
No, but that's got nothing to do with referees. Like it's whether you protect referees. If you allow public manipulation and indirectly influencing them, then I would say that you're only human if you're a referee, and get phone calls to say you need to tidy this area up. Why is that? Because someone's complained about us. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, something's happening. Technical difficulties. Oh, there he is. I don't know what happened.
I thought maybe there were technical difficulties on my end, so I just reconnect.
Yeah, your audio is a bit funny as well.
Those couple times where you paused Ivan's presser, and if you were talking, I wasn't able to hear you. So,
Oh, that's fun. So my microphone probably stuffed up at some point there, and I didn't even know it. I can't hear myself, so.
well, I can hear you now, so we seem to be back in action.
Cool. So I have no idea what was missed. Sorry, guys. Basically, I've gone and found Bennett's now. So that'll be ready to go in a second, and you'll get his response. So it's good fun. I think you'll get a good laugh out of it. So yeah, what I showed was basically the meat of Ivan's. You don't get much more after that than other than just sort of clarifying what was already said. His main point was protecting the referees, and maybe they should have a system in place like they do with the post-match stuff pre-game, but then allowed to sort of do that sort of referee manipulation.
Yeah, so just a quick fill in for those in the chat. There were, you might be aware, but there were comments made in and after the press conferences for that game last night, and I asked Old Panther his thoughts on them, and we decided to have a bit of a listen.
Yes. So I think Penrith were talking about the late hits on Nathan, which did happen in our last game against them. There was one where Cleary got hit late after he kicked, and then when he landed, he almost rolled his ankle, and he was like limping for like the next set sort of thing, and then it went away after a bit.
I do remember that one.
And then a set or two later, we got penalised for hitting the kicker late. It's like, okay, cool. And I think that's what he was talking about midweek. And obviously, Bennett's thing was with the way our players, blocked for Nathan Cleary, which you're technically not allowed to do. So, back and forward. So, Like we'll have, say, Isaiah Yo will just go and stand sort of in front. And, you know, it's not like they build a wall or anything.
But let's face it, every team is guilty of doing some illegal things.
Yeah,
in their
it
play.
happens. Like every single team does that. Or, you know, like the Roosters last night with their completely legal and revolutionary kick defense of their kicker. Yeah, that was like there were so many people complaining about that last night with their wall. All right, so if we are ready, let's boom. We got the master coach himself, and we'll have a listen to what he's got to say in response.
A really gutsy performance from your boys. How proud are you?
Yeah, I'm really proud of their effort.
What do you like most about it?
They won.
Why did that mute?
How did you win? From your boys, how proud are you?
Yeah, I'm really proud of their effort.
What do you like most about it?
They won.
I love that. Like he has a special way of dealing with the media, which just is brilliant. I do love a Wayne Bennett press conference. Like when he stops,
even the ones when he chats to Fox pre-game.
Yeah, he's so good at it. Like he's just so good. Like when he stops coaching, if that ever happens, I don't see it, but like if he wanted to retire from coaching, he could just hire himself out as like a team's press conference guy after games.
Let's be honest, Wayne will probably cark it before he stops coaching.
Yeah, I think he loves it too much.
Do you reckon he'll be the one in charge of the new team whenever that happens? If it's still happening in 2023?
It wouldn't surprise me to give him a chance to go back to Queensland and chill out. And if there is a gap, that'll give him a chance. Maybe he could go back and coach Queensland for a bit. I don't know. Or maybe even just take a bit of time off and maybe they'd let him build a team up if they know, say if they come along and go, right, we're going to let the Dolphins come in, that they're the bid that we're taking, for example, then he could maybe take 12 months or something to just build a roster and do his thing and whatever he needs to do and build up to coaching the new team.
Yeah, like look at the players who are going to be off contract for that year, scout out who he wants, and
yeah. I don't
while
know if
having a year off.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll get any salary cap concessions being a new club or anything. If I remember, I haven't watched AFL for a long time, but I think their new clubs got that when they came in. Like Western Sydney
When
and
the
that.
Giants came in and when the Suns came in, they definitely got a lot of concessions in regards to like salary cap and draft picks and all those other little bits and pieces that went into shaping their new teams.
Yeah. I mean, but whether that happens or not, I think if you get a guy like Bennett, he'll have a decent roster and stuff. Good first couple of years.
There's also potentially a lot of players that he could chase who are off contract.
Yeah.
After 22.
What a coincidence. Wonder if managers have worked that out, knowing there's some money going to be floated around. Who should coach the Maroons in 2022? Well, option one would be anyone but Paul Green.
Well, he quit, didn't he?
I haven't been keeping up on the Origin stuff now. Been winding up to finals.
I'm pretty sure he quit. He quit the job because he wants to return to coaching. And some of the articles were about, will he coach the Tigers next year? But then again,
and then Tigers fans proceeded
anyone
to
coach the Tigers next year.
Yeah. Oh my god! If the Tigers hired him, they need their heads checked.
Oh, please don't do that, Pascoe.
Like that would be such a Justin Pascoe thing. Like, I don't like. You'd be much better off keeping Madge. If the club really felt like they desperately needed to change, like they felt like they were in a spot where they had to do it, you would either get Bennett, you would get Cameron Sorrell, Penrith, or you'd go after what's he from the Sharks? He got sacked from the Sharks.
Flanagan.
The
There's
guy,
that hidden.
the guy from this year.
Oh, the other guy who got sacked from the Sharks, because there's been that whole friggin'.
So hang on, which sacked Sharks coach are we talking about?
Because there's also been that whole hidden agenda from like Buzz and
Yeah,
others who were trying to get Flanagan the
Fox
job.
Journo's supporting their Fox Journo, mate. Like the same thing happened with Anthony Griffin.
What was the other Sharks coach's name? I've forgotten his name off the top of my head.
Morrison.
That's it. John
For some
Morris.
reason, yeah, it completely escaped me.
Yeah, it had escaped me too. I don't know if I'd go after him. I mean, he did all right with what he had at the Sharks. They made finals both years, despite having things like the Bronson Jerry incident go down.
Yeah, but considering the roster he had and he kept making the 8 anyway.
Yeah, sacking him probably wasn't the right call. There was also an article where apparently Fred Fittler came out and said one of the clubs he could see himself coaching is the Tigers. Then I'm thinking, you're going to ignore these guys for Origin, but you want to coach them now? The fuck? Are you talking? I can't hear you again.
Oh, we're there?
Yep, there you are.
All right, so it's going to be one of those days where things are just... There's a ghost in the machine.
Technology's just like, nah, fuck you.
Yep. But no, I couldn't see Fittler doing the week-to-week coaching. I think Origin suits him really well. He gets that 3 games a year. He can scout his players early in the year, do his thing. Less pressure in the sense of you don't have to do that week-to-week grind of NRL.
And then he goes back to his cushy media job with 9.
Yeah, exactly. I think it suits a guy like him who loves New South Wales, loves the game, and he can inject that enthusiasm into the New South Wales camp a couple times a year. I think that definitely suits him much better.
Fuck, if I'm the Tigers, I'm just like, here you go, Robbie, have the coaching job. Probably couldn't do much worse than just giving it to Farron.
Yeah, normally I'd say let him build up to it, but fuck it, 10 years of no finals, you might as well just
throw him in the deep end.
Risk reward, have fun.
Bring Benji back as a fucking coaching assistant to Robbie.
There you go. There's your coach and assistant coach for next year. But no, I don't know how Tigers fans feel, but I don't see why Madge shouldn't get a chance now that the salary cap is finally sorting itself out.
The thing is, Madge was also just re-signed.
Well, yeah, like why? I get why Penrith did it with Griffin. There were genuine reasons there, but I don't think Madge has done anything to justify sacking him straight after re-signing him.
No.
Like the reasons...
Yeah, there's been a few bad losses this year. Yeah, we've gone backwards on the ladder in regards to like ladder position. Like 9th in his first season, 11th in his second, and 13th in his third. But so yeah, that does paint a picture. But you look at all the good he's done. He's built up our juniors. He's gotten us the systems in place for the juniors for as they come through. He's gotten us out of the salary cap mess that Jason Taylor, Ivan Cleary left us in. And he's got the team, for the most part, he's got the team he wants now. He's getting those players there.
Well, that's what I'm saying is
play under him.
The reasons I've had when they re-signed him, nothing's changed from that moment. like everything is still at that spot. So surely they would have re-signed him knowing that the salary cap was about to sort itself out, and then he could start doing a bit more, and it's like a growth thing over time.
Yeah, like he was signed. Was it over the off season, last off season or preseason? I think it was.
It was
Like,
definitely
and
within
he's-
the last 12, 16
Yeah,
months or
'cause he's-
something.
He was re-signed for an extra 2 seasons to the end of 2023. Like he was originally off contract at the end of this year, but they gave him that 2-year extension.
Yeah. So that tells me that they know the circumstances around the salary cap and all that sort of stuff. And I would imagine one of his big pitches would have been, just let me get through this period once we, your Russell Packers and that are gone, and then we can start getting somewhere.
Yeah, like literally now the only dead money in the salary cap is whatever we're paying the Dragons for Mbai.
Yeah, and it won't be too much because the Dragons are getting pretty desperate too.
Like I said to you, I think it was last week, I think it's around the 350 to 400k mark.
Which I think you said you're saving about 500.
Yeah, thereabouts.
So that in itself, that's still one decent player. Like that,
and then you look at the money we're getting back from Packer now that he's retired.
Like you've got well over $1 million of caps free now for next year.
Joey Leilua as well, I think, was also on another 500 and he's gone. Joey Leilua might have been like 550 or something. So
yeah, it'd be like if you sack Madge now, they're fucking stupid. Give him the chance to actually prove that he can do it with what he's got. Like if you give him all the salary cap and he fails, well, fair enough, sack him next year. But at least give him a chance at something.
Exactly.
Like it's not his fault. Like he brought over Tamo, who, but for all intents and purposes, should have been a good signing. But
yeah,
he's half the player he was.
That way.
Yeah, he was half the player he was 12 months ago. Is that on Madge? I don't think it is.
That's on Tamo himself.
That's on Tamo to be a professional.
Tamo, I think, had an interview recently where he was basically honest about the fact that he hasn't lived up to the standards he set for himself and stuff this year. So the big thing for Tamo now will be, how does he bounce back?
Well, yeah, if he's coming out and saying that, he's got to acknowledge it and then do better. Because he was very good with us last year. Like he was great.
And like in the Manly trial, we saw what he was capable of. We just didn't see that through the season.
Yeah, it just was gone. I don't know.
There was it was an interview on Twitter with Weidler, I think it was, over the phone, where he was asked about Madge, and he excuse me, he said towards the end of it, or something along the lines of, he's told the boys to make sure they come back fit because they're going to be ripping in over the preseason. I'll find it. I'll find it for you and send it in the Discord so we can.
Yeah, for sure. We can maybe pop that up because they haven't earned the right to have any kind of easy preseason.
Oh hell no!
Like
they need to be ripped into. They need to be torn apart this preseason.
Yeah, basically, Madge has to tear them back down to the ground level and build them back up again because they've got, like, they looked like they couldn't play for 80 minutes. I think they really did it maybe once or twice. It's like you need to grind.
I'd say our 80-minute performances were the win against you guys, the first win against the Dragons,
and that Souths game,
and that Souths game. Well, that Souths game maybe 70 minutes. I think they weren't really.
Yeah, but
the first 10.
That's the problem. Is that's probably for the guys at that level. It's easy enough to do it for a week here and there, but where the fitness really comes in is when you're grinding for 25 weeks, for 80 minutes every week. And that's where the really fit clubs come into play. as you go through the season, weeks in a row, we're able to keep that level in intensity up. So, and that's what they've got to do. So hopefully he kicks the absolute snot out of him, honestly, over the preseason. I'm really hoping they do.
Same.
Other than that,
Well, that's the best part I like. So, no.
How did you win?
I think everybody saw what they did. So,
Defence was very good. Seemed to frustrate Penrith.
yeah, no, it was good. We've been building at that, getting better at it.
Yeah, that was probably the highlight of the game. Is South's defense. That was really good. It was amazing. Like, for example, Momirovski's been getting a lot of shit for not passing to his winger, which is something that he's really bad at. And last night, I was keeping an eye on it. There were no opportunities. Whenever Momirovski got the ball, there just was no space there. And it's because South just did too much of a good job of it. So you got to give him credit. And people saying this morning, someone asked me, oh, how do you think they'd go? And I'm like, obviously, I'd still be worried if I was them playing the Storm, but if they can maintain what they did last night in defense, well, they're giving themselves as good a shot as anyone of beating the Storm.
They also knew that they had to slide out to be able to cover for Toto whenever he got the ball, and they did that really well as well.
Yeah, like it was constant 2- and 3-man tackles against Toto. They handled that really, really well.
On previous games against Penrith, what kind of adjustments did you bring into tonight, Wayne?
Oh, not a lot really. We're just getting better at what's important in big games, and we've had a pretty good season. So we had a couple of bad moments, but they're behind us now.
And those important things in the game, were they not there previously, or the players are just taking more to that now?
Oh, I think they understand now what beats them and what wins for them. So they're better in that area there. They understand the importance of every play in the game.
Yeah, and this is where Ivan's problem is. You got guys like Bennett who have been there, done that, and they know what's what. And we go through the regular season, we look great because we've got a great team and decent coaching stuff. But you get to these big games, and it's like there's something there, which a lot of fans put down to the Ivan is it's like we struggle when you get that step up. Like, look at the roster. Like, we were at our best when our backline had Dylan Edwards as fullback, Ali Staines, Stephen Crichton on the edge, and then Toto, Burton on the other edge. Yeah, it's like. And then at the end of the year, he starts freaking out because finals is coming up, and he sticks Momirovski at center and Crichton on the edge. It's like, this weird thing. He loses his mind when it comes to finals games. It's like he loses his nerve and gets worried. But what worked earlier in the year made you the best team in the competition will work now. I don't know. I think that's
that whole
yeah. It's like the pressure situation gets to him. Whereas coaches like Bennett and Bellamy and Robinson, they know what to do. They're not worried at all. They just go through and they're like, right, this is what we're doing. You won't see them randomly changing their team out of because they're freaking out. Like last year, it's like Tyrone May in the grand final. Like you would never see. I don't think you'd see Bellamy making those kinds of changes the last minute and hoping to win a grand final.
And that, so they did that tonight really well.
How'd you rate your young fullback, Wayne?
Yeah, well, I think he did a tremendous job under. Yeah, leave it at that.
Yes, he was good.
Indeed.
We were asked earlier about is he underrated. I don't think he is. I don't think anyone's put him down at all. They said he only had the one error all game. Like, how bad could you say he was? Like, I think he handled it great. So he's going to be one of their players for the future.
Definitely.
A lot of pressure on him, Wayne, but he dropped one
Well, I
down.
didn't put on him, I can tell you. So I've got to assume he handled whatever was coming his way. But I think we handled him really well, but more importantly, he handled himself great. So.
What kind of kid is he, Wayne? Is he the kind of kid you felt would be able to get out there and just play a game of football?
Well, we wouldn't have put him out there if we didn't believe in him. Okay.
What kind of a question is that? He picked him in one of the most important positions on the team, but no, he didn't actually think he could do it. Sorry.
In the most important game of the season so far.
Oh my god, that is mind-numbingly annoying. Like, he would have picked someone else if he didn't think he'd go out and, as the journo said, play a game of football. Like, yeah, it's one of the spine positions, one of the most important positions in the team in one of the most important games of the year. Oh my god. I should be like a journo.
You know your shit better than some of the journos do.
But like, what kind of a question is that? Like, you want to know a bit about the kid, fine, ask about him, but like, you're asking the coach essentially whether he picked him and thought he could actually go out and do the job or not. Like, do you think Wayne Bennett's just going to pick his team for a freaking finals game? And he's crossing his fingers and like, oh man, I hope this guy who's not very good at football does a job today. He's pretty hopeless, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, what are we doing with this absolute spud of a kid in our team?
Oh, well, I guess we'll put him at fullback, see how it happens.
Need someone to replace the troll. Why the fuck not?
Yeah, but we actually just picked him out of the crowd. He won the raffle. Come on, guys.
You're not going to do that in a game like this. And we believed in him.
I think Kalamatangi's hit on Cleary was justified at the end. Sorry,
I
a
don't know.
penalty.
The line balls, those. I mean, Adam got a couple in the first half. Yeah.
Wayne, you were vocal during the week about the blocking. Did you think that was better adjudicated tonight?
Well, you say I was vocal. I mean, I didn't start.
All right. We'll go back a little bit. This is where it starts. So this is where we get
Into the meat and potatoes.
yeah, the juiciness of it. So this is where it kicks off for real against. Because the journos, obviously, you know what they're like. They'll bait it because they want the headlines. Now this will give them headlines for the next week.
Exactly. It's their job after all.
Well, you say I was vocal. I mean, I didn't start the conversation publicly. Right? I said nothing publicly. This happened 3 weeks ago. I sent some information to the referees for clarification. So,
And for the record, I don't think our side did either. Somebody somewhere has done it. Probably someone with inside information or something. It's gone.
Leaked
Maybe,
it.
yeah, either one of the clubs or within the NRL has leaked it. Probably got paid maybe a couple bucks for, just providing a headline essentially. I seriously doubt either Ivan or Wayne has like called up the media and like, hey Buzz, guess what?
Got
cool
this
is
huge
this?
scoop for you.
Like, come on, guys. What do you like? That's clearly not what's happening. You just imagine Ivan late at night, like secret rendezvous with his mask on, like handing Buzz or something, like a little folder like with top secret written on it.
Just like the movies.
Yeah, like some like spy movie like sort of thing. Like the coaches aren't the ones giving the headlines. They're the one they generally don't get along with the media as well as like it's normally the inside people. Some random will hear something or see something or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, I can maybe this will make a headline.
I wasn't going public with anything until Penrith started to come out and they started the public statements, and I just responded to those. I wasn't going to sit back and not stand up for my team and my players.
Ivan Cleary just sat in here and said he doesn't think that coaches should be able to say things like that pre-game. You fine post-game if you say things that might have an influence over the officiating or the result.
Well, I couldn't agree with him more on that, but that's why I didn't say anything. I never said anything for 3 weeks. We played him 3 weeks ago. He was the one that come out and started mouthing off. So just get that in his right perspective. So if he's critical of himself.
Well, he kind of was. Wayne doesn't have the context because the media
It
obviously,
wasn't there.
yeah, like
Spin it a little bit, yeah.
the media are like, oh, guess what Ivan said? He was in here a minute ago. Guess what he said? They obviously didn't relate to him that he said that he's guilty of it too.
Yeah, they left out that one key little factor.
And it's a very key piece of information.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he's like, hey, we do it too. And as he said, if you're going to allow it to happen, it's going to happen. That's what he said. Like, so if the NRL aren't going to enforce something to stop coaches doing this, they're going to keep doing it because it works. Or because they at least think it's going to work. I don't know. That's the point. Whereas and credit to them, it's nice little bait because it'll give them their headlines. So, good on them. They need those headlines. That's their job. But it's just, yeah, nice little way to do it without context.
But South Sydney had no say whatsoever until he come out and started to talk it all up.
Do you think the refs are being influenced by public manipulation, right?
There's no public manipulation. I saw an incident in a game that I didn't like, okay? And surely it's my right to ask the referees what their interpretation of that is. That's what I did. That's process. Now,
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, clubs should be able to get clarification on things because how can they improve? Like, if you're, say, if 1 week you receive an unusually large amount of penalties, well, how can you clarify that if you're not allowed to, say, send an email up to the NRL, the department with the refs and that, and say, hey, can we get some clarification around this?
Which I'm guessing Souths probably did after that game against you guys a few weeks back.
That's probably all they've done is Wayne's probably, maybe sent him an email or something and said, hey, can we get some clarification around this game? We had a pretty lopsided penalty count. What's happened? What have we done? And maybe even included a couple things that maybe they thought that we could have been penalised for and didn't.
Like the most, the most key one that came out of that game was the downtown one.
Yeah.
Where they hardly ever pick up on it, but that time they did.
Yeah, and it's because the player got involved. Normally what will happen is they'll call a player out for whatever, and then the player will keep sort of out of it a bit. But the guy who got called out ended up with the ball in his hands.
Mark Nichols, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Mark Nichols. So it leaves the officials in a position where they have no choice but to call the penalty. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I'll try and let the game flow as much as they can, but if you put them in a position where they have to, well, what can they do? It's I guess sort of in a sense playing advantage, as long as he doesn't get involved.
Because you've also found a lot of the time this year with penalties in general that they'll let them go at first to see if the attacking team gets an advantage out of it.
Yeah.
And then they'll call it back if they don't.
Yeah. They're definitely trying to play that advantage to let the game go a little bit if they can get away with it.
The worst one of those though is what's the incident I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, like advantage off of knock-ons and shit. There was a couple times in Tigers games where I'm like, how has he not taken advantage? He's run like 15 plus meters, and you're saying he hasn't got an advantage out of that?
Yeah, it's really weird because the advantage rule is actually up to ref discretion. So a player could run like 80 meters, and if the ref doesn't think he had advantage, he could still call it. It's so weird. Like, for example, there was one with Mansour when he was with us last year. And he got the ball, ran down like 30 meters down the sideline from the opposition knock on. And the ref said because the sideline's there and the cover defense is coming across, that there was never really any advantage or something. I'm paraphrasing to a point. I haven't got the exact wording you used, but it was basically something like that. And it's like, it's really unusual because he's gone 30 meters downfield. So the advantage rule is one of those ones where it's difficult to, it's almost impossible to know which way the ref's going to go with it until it actually happens.
There was a downtown between Bronx and Knights. I think it occurred when Milford put that kick and Hetherington was in front but called a try. Can't remember that off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember it off the top of my head. Who was in the wrong and did they get involved and whatnot?
It says Hetherington was in front, called the try.
Yeah, I wish I remembered it off the top of my head now.
If that's manipulating the game, you're all kidding yourselves. Well, that's manipulating nobody, and if the referees can't handle that, and I'm sure they can, because I'm sure I'm not the only coach has ever questioned some of their decision making, and that's what they're there for. But you know, keep it in house. I didn't put it out on the front pages. I never said a word. 3 weeks ago I did it.
Yeah. So maybe talk
Fired
to
up Wayne Bennett.
yeah, because the journalists have come in here and they've poked at him, and credit to him, he's good at giving it back. But somebody's leaking to the media. It's not like Penrith would have the information that, you know, what Bennett sent to the NRL commission, whatever they are, like in the referees commission. You know, that'd be between South and the referees. Yet that still was made public. So somebody's giving the information around.
I think every club has a friggin' mole that leaks things to the media.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the papers and that maybe probably offer a bit of financial incentive or something. I don't know.
It's like the TV show, The Mole, but there's one in every club.
The NRL put them in there just to keep things spicy.
Got to give their journos something to report on.
Yeah, exactly.
3 weeks.
Ivan even said that he thinks they shouldn't be able, coaches have too much influence to ring up and question every decision. And
Well, they do it.
yeah, he said
We all do,
himself as
and we
well.
should have that right. You can't take that away from us. But the public comment, yeah, I'm a fan of that. But as I said, I didn't start this one.
There's regulation practice, Wayne, to be able to, you talk about common practice you've been around obviously for a little while. Is it regular to talk to the NRL about decisions? How often
Well,
during
you have
the season?
to. Well, it depends. I hardly ever do it these days. When I was a younger coach, I couldn't get off the phone enough times to them. But I had that many losses in the end. I felt punch drunk, so I stopped doing it. But you know, I've done it twice this year. That's all I've done. Okay, and that's what they're there for. They've got to, you know, we know what the rules are. They interpret the rules. Well, if they've got a different slant onto us, I've got to know that. I've got to talk to them about that.
Which that is totally fair. 100% fair. That's what I was saying before, is if you go through a game like they did against us where the penalty count was quite lopsided, a coach has to be able to clarify that, because the last thing you want to do is, well, if you don't have that avenue to discuss it with the refs and find out what the hell went wrong, well, that was 3 weeks ago. You're coming into finals. Imagine if they couldn't clarify that game.
Yeah, but that stuff should be kept to behind closed doors.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And it's not like Wayne Bennett has gone and put that into the media, but someone has. And as Wayne said earlier, yes, that should be behind closed doors. But privately should be able to have that avenue. Like, it shouldn't get locked off, because like if you're coming into the finals like they are, you need to be able to clarify that stuff and then go back to training and go, right, have a chat to your team, go, right, this is where we're at, this is what we need to work on, this is where we need to be better. You can't fix it if the referees aren't gonna, and the NRL aren't gonna clarify that with you. So it absolutely has to be able to happen. It's just, yeah, it should definitely be behind closed doors, because once it becomes public and it's in the papers for a week before a game, and especially before a finals game, you don't want the ref walking in there thinking about that. being worried about their public image. Like, I don't know if you saw the thing that was going around on Twitter where people were posting it, and it was the thing on Atkins and how he was, you know, attached to Penrith and all this sort of stuff with the Penrith Referees Association. That, like, what the fuck? That's ridiculous. Yeah, NRL referees are going to come from NRL heartlands. Western Sydney is one of them. So you're going to get referees all from, you know, Penrith and Parramatta and like Queensland. Like, how many, you know, it's going to happen because that's where the game's played. Where are we supposed to get our referees from?
Bring them in from Papua New Guinea or fucking
We're gonna
Super League. We'll swap refs. We'll take the Super League ones and they can have the, the Aussie ones.
Yeah, like that's the only solution, I guess. We'll bring the NRL refs over. They can bring their little flags with them.
But like I was saying to you, like I think I said it to you just at the end of halftime on Discord last night, they need to get on top of that, and there shouldn't be any sort of perceived bias.
Yeah.
Any chance of there being any sort of bias, then
like I'm pretty sure it was his father that played for Parramatta.
Yeah, it was.
Parramatta himself was a player. He actually played the game.
And then you've got Casey Badger, for example, who's married to Gavin Badger, who now works with the Tigers. Like there are so many connections there, and it's obviously a very difficult thing to manage. But
yeah, the NRL is a small world.
In saying that, refs should also make sure that they aren't biased in a game, because it's part of their job. It's part of their, I'd say it's part of their contract sort of thing.
Yeah. There'd be stuff in there they'd be aware of. I'm pretty sure it happened at Origin this year. When one of them couldn't go into, I think it was, the guy who was reffing the game, it was like his brother or whatever, you know, the brothers in the reffing ranks, was going to go into the Queensland camp or something, and they said no, and New South Wales objected to it.
Oh yeah, the Suttons.
Yeah.
The many in the refereeing ranks.
Yeah, and New South Wales objected to it, and then they got told they couldn't do it because his brother or something was refereeing the game. Like, you've got to be aware of these things.
And I got to say, the conversations are cordial, and no one's carrying on, and I was happy with their response, but I left it there. I didn't tell you people. I wasn't the one that started it.
Who did?
Well, Ivan did, because he came out.
But then who? Why did it leak? You know.
Well, he worked for him. He worked for the referees before he went back into coaching. I've got to assume he's got some mates there still.
Now that's a shot fired if I ever saw one.
Yeah, that is the lowest of blows.
I gotta admit that's probably the knockout blow there.
Yeah, that is the TKO right there.
we counted him out. He's gone. But like, I don't think that's accurate. It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong. I got a good laugh out of it watching it on TV last night. I don't think that's what happened. Like, you see stuff leak all over the place all the time. It's just gonna. You've got to just accept it as an inevitability of the sport at this point.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen. You don't get a choice. I don't know why. It's just a natural part of the game. So, especially coming up to finals, it's like that spicy time where everyone's like, "Ooh, let's see what we can drum up drama." Ooh.
Well, that shouldn't be allowed, right? No,
well, that's not my problem. It's not my department. Okay, just telling you the background to it.
Why?
But I don't know what you're all going on about it for, because it takes away all your headlines. So I wouldn't be writing what you're talking about.
When
someone might do something about it, and then you're not going to have the headlines. It was good theatre, wasn't it? No, got everybody pumped up a little bit.
Exactly. Like, he's got a point. It's the theatre of it. Like, I guarantee you, neither coach is going to think about it twice. They're just spouting off in the media, and they'll go off and go to camp for the next game and not really care. Like I've said it a couple of times, I think Ivan's just trying to take the focus off the team so that the articles this week aren't about Nathan Cleary or Jerome Luai or whatever player at the time. That's been a coaching tactic since coaching started. Like, it'll make Ivan the villain. Now Fox Sports this week will be talking about Ivan Cleary, and his press conference and Wayne's response and the drama. Meanwhile, the players will be back at training completely isolated from all this, not giving a crap, just preparing for either Eels or Knights next week.
While Wayne and Souths are going to have a little bit of time where they can get away from footy and just enjoy.
They're going to go chill out
and a few days off.
Yeah, they're going to go chill out and get ready for, for their game in 2 weeks. They get a week off, so they get to enjoy themselves. It actually works out perfectly for the coaches. They'd both be loving it.
They probably won't worry about South. They probably won't worry about too much until they come back. I mean, probably close to next weekend. Like, they're probably going to have, like, I'd say 3, 4, 5 days off, and then.
Yeah, I'm not sure how. I think Storm like to sort of treat. They go through and they'll train and treat it like they're still playing a game on the weekend.
Yeah,
I think I've heard they do it like that, so I'm not sure. Different teams seem to have a different approach. I've even heard of in previous years the Storm having like an almost practice match on the weekend where they've got off. I don't know, maybe they do it maybe they go 50% or something, I don't know, so they don't no injuries and stuff, but just enough to sort of run through some game plans and whatnot and defensive structures, I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, especially with how professional Bellamy is. Wayne seems a bit more laid back. Bellamy, so
I would imagine the Bunnies would have a little bit of time to themselves before they come back to training, and they probably won't worry too much about what's going on training wise or in the game wise until after they know who their opposition will be.
Well, that's it. They won't know. So they'll get the winner of Manly,
Friday night's game.
Yeah, Manly Roosters. So yeah, they'll be all right. A few recovery sessions and whatever, and then have some time off or something, I guess.
That's what it's about.
Wayne, you're 1 win away from a grand final. That must feel pretty good as well, considering the ups and downs of this season.
Yeah, I feel pretty good tonight. I just feel good with their effort and what they did. And Penrith's a top team, there's no doubt about that. And we had to stand up to them, we knew that. And from the 50-odd point defeat.
I think that is a big important point there where he said, they knew they had to stand up to us. They did that and we didn't go with them. Mentally and physically, we did not match that. And that's the more concerning part for me. Guys like Fisher Harris, our forward pack, which has been beastly all year, completely stood over and walked over and just pushed back, and it physically couldn't compete with the South forward pack.
At Dubbo, it's a real credit to them where they've come. So to be able to turn this around here tonight. Yep.
What value is the week off, Wayne, at this time of year?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Yeah. This time of the season, we gave a lot of players a rest last week, and that worked great for us. And this time of the season, you're going to start that game in 2 weeks' time. You're just going to be a lot fresher than the team you're playing now. It'll even itself out after 20 minutes or so, but in that first 20-odd minutes, you can get a real advantage. So, yeah. And that's what you play. That's what you want a top 4 position for. You want that opportunity to but you also want that opportunity to go straight to a prelim final and have a week's rest while everybody else is playing footy against each other.
Any injuries or?
No, I think we're pretty good actually.
Yeah, so that's it. So you got to see the Ivan Wayne interaction. What do you think of? Yeah, what do you think of that?
A little bit of theatre.
Yeah.
To get the rest of the final series hyped up and take the pressure off the Tigers for a change. It's nice.
Well, hopefully, we'll get a week of articles about this now instead of, oh my God, did you hear Tigers didn't make the finals again? Like, how many times can you say the same thing over and over again?
Get sick of it.
Yeah. Oh my God, Madge is going to get sacked. No, wait, we changed their mind. Brooks is going to get sacked. No, wait, Brooks is going to sack Madge. Okay.
Justin, Leota was withdrawn an hour before kickoff with an injury. So I think he's expected to be back next week. But yeah, he was a late
Yeah.
withdrawal.
So him and Ed Woods, as far as I know, are expected back next week. But that, yeah, like such a late withdrawal of one of your starting props definitely hurts, especially in a big game like that. Like you could probably get away with it for a lot of games during the year, but not a big finals game like that.
Yeah, and we actually talked about it, how much they missed him while Eisenhuth was out there.
Oh, Eisenhuth was just so garbage.
Yeah, one of the players the Tigers would have been happy to get rid of.
You're like, see you, buddy. Like he does a job, like as long as you don't expect him to be more than he is. He's your typical journeyman type backup squad filling player. He's not one fan base wants to be relying on sort of for their finals campaign. Like Sorensen getting injured, center sort of gave me chills because I'm like, man, this is not cool. We need him. He was so good coming off the bench for us, and he would come on as our first forward interchange.
Yep.
And it was so good having him come on after Leota and Fish, and then yeah, you got guys like Lenu and that who can come on. Swear to God, Lenu better stay on that bench though. He brings so much energy. He doesn't play big minutes at the moment. I'll need to work on his fitness over the off season. But even if you just give him 15 minutes and just tell him to go flat out for 15 minutes, as long as everyone else does their job, it can work for now. But I mean, Pangai was pretty garbage last night too.
Yeah, like then again, Pangai's come from the Broncos and they've been garbage for most of the year.
He
No
ran for
offense,
the same.
Justin, but
Yeah, he ran for the same meters as Lenu, except he had like an extra 12 minutes of game time.
yeah, like he just didn't have the output that would be expected of him. I'm interested to see how Pangai actually goes next year with the full off season at the at the Dogs. And
Yeah, I did think like having that move from the Broncos into a top team would have been big, great, get him a bit of energy about him. I thought get a bit excited, like, hey, you've come from this sort of down environment to the up environment. Thought that'd really get him motivated. But yeah. Did you find that thing you were gonna find?
yeah, I sent it to you on Twitter. I sent it to you on Discord.
Let's have a.
Oh, you load it up. I might have a short break.
Yep. Here we go. James Tarmow.
I'll be back in a minute.
No worries. I'll follow this.
The players. That is the strong.
Yeah. Okay. Video. That's why I did that. All right, let's fix this up. All right, chat. What's your predictions for this afternoon? Why can't the NRL teach from what the Super League is doing, the league at the moment? Well, it depends what you mean by that, NSL. Is there something specific that the Super League refs do or how they handle games that you prefer over the NRL at the moment? I mean, I don't watch a lot of the Super League games. And I really hope the Eagles win today. I would love that Western Sydney finals game. That's going to go off. I keep banging around. Might be back. Oh. That's still okay. Let's have a look. What's my tip for this afternoon? Find it now. Pretty sure I tipped the.
I'm back.
I'm just trying to find what I tipped this afternoon. I remember sending the margins.
Oh yeah, you sent me your margins for.
Yeah. Scrolling through to find it.
You went Eels by 18.
Ah, yes, that's right. So
I've got my spreadsheet open up in Excel.
So I Storm by 12. Cool, that worked out well.
Yeah, needed to double it and then some.
And then the one that shocked, I think, everybody, the Roosters by 20. I said that was my margin. So, yay. And I went Panthers by 6 because I did expect South to be good, but obviously, other way around. I got the margin, technically speaking. I should get a point for that. Technically speaking, I got the margin. And then I said Eels by 18 for today.
Yeah, I said Eels by 16.
I'm not on a good run with my tips this week.
It's funny though, with this comp, that's the 6 of us that you're in, like my brother and my dad and our other mates. I get the margin bonus for both the Storm and the Roosters because even though I was way off, I was still the closest.
Oh yeah, because they pretty much flogged
Storm
it.
So I said Storm by 14. There was Storm by 8, Storm by 8, Eagles by 2, Eagles by 4, and Storm by 12. So I get that one.
Yeah.
Then I said Roosters by 12. There was Storm by 14, Storm by 16, and 3 Roosters by 20. So I get that one as well.
Yeah, everyone overshot way in both directions. Like, that's crazy.
And there was only one person who tipped the Rabbits, so they get the full 4 points because there can't be anyone closer when you're the only one that tipped them.
So what has everyone picked for today's game?
So we've got Knights by 8, Eels by 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18.
Yeah, so if the Knights win, that person's done well.
Although it doesn't really matter too much because the one who went Rabbits was the one who's in dead last and who is not catching up to anyone.
Ah, here we go. All right, I found your clip, the Twitter clip.
However, the only one who's gone the Knights is the one who's in second, so he'll close the gap on me if the Knights win.
That's going to be an interesting one then.
But then again, I've still got my main comp that I've got to worry about. Which I don't think I have. No, I haven't closed the gap between me and second at all because. Or first, because we've all been rather far off.
Yeah.
I actually did that.
NSL said, funny fact, the last time these two teams have faced off in the final series was in the 2001 grand final. Yeah, well, looking at Eels and finals, for them to win it this year, they have to go through us, Storm, and then either South, Manly, or Roosters.
Yeah, that's not an easy path.
That's probably going to be one of the hardest final straws we come up with.
I mean, like, considering their recent record in finals as well, the Eels, like, you're expecting them to win today, but they don't have much of a chance next week, I would imagine.
Yeah, like,
considering last year they lost in straight sets. The year before that,
well, I don't think Brad Arthur's won a finals game with them yet. I don't think.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure their last finals win was it the year they lost the grand final to Storm? Was that 09?
Yeah, it's been I think that's been one of the big criticisms of him, that where they can play well during the year, but once they get to finals, I think they're always just straight out.
Yeah, Mitchell Moses just vanishes.
So they're going to have to overcome some things, and then if they did happen to do it, as unlikely as it is, that would be probably one of the biggest fairy tales in the history of the sport. Like, having not won for 30 years or whatever, and then they can tell the exact amount of years. It's 35 years. The year I was born was the last time the Parramatta Eels won a grand final.
Yeah, I like that fact that I haven't seen the Eels win a grand final. I've been born.
I like the fact that I'm kind of like their curse or something. I was born, they stopped winning grand finals.
Finals in general.
Yeah. So
But yeah, I was right. The last final the Eels won was the prelim in 2009.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sucks to be you, Para.
Oh, I've got you.
Sorry, NSL, if you're in chat.
Yeah.
It sucks to be you, Para.
Well, I'm sure Eels fans know it more than anyone. That's one of those things. Cubs fans know what hurts. Oh, I've got the clip
NSL
up here.
tipped
So
Manly to win by 44-12, and that went well. Went for Roosters to win 28-24.
I don't know.
Close.
That's
and went for Panthers to win against Souths 42-16.
those big margins. I don't think. I don't think those big margins are reasonably at all.
Oh, well, you absolutely nailed it with the Panthers beating Souths 42-16 NSL. Full credit to the boys for that one.
All right, I got your clip up here. So this was James Tamo. What's the context for this one?
Tamo being interviewed by Weidler, asked about match.
Oh, so in other words, it's the back of Weidler's head talking to Tamo.
Actually, no, it's the front of Weidler's face.
Oh, we get the front. See, it's that variation that makes him one of the best reporters.
Because he conducts the interview over the phone.
Oh yeah, all this social distance stuff these days.
Yeah, Weidler's got to get his screen time in, eh?
He's got to work it in.
If the West Tigers board sacks coach Michael Maguire, it will be going against the wishes of the players. That is the strong belief of Tigers captain James Tamo, who says it would be senseless to punt Maguire now, despite another wasted season.
That's what we said. We'll hear what he says in a minute. But pause for copyright and all that. But we said the same thing before. Like, there's no point in sacking him right now. Like, you're literally on the edge of being able to sort your salary cap out. Just give him a year or two now, and I would go in with the mentality that you're starting now.
Like they've already done. They've already given him 2 years beyond this year.
Like,
and to take that away from him now would be stupid.
Yeah, it's like you've given him the extension, and you can treat it as if now you start for real. You fix your salary cap now do it. Get the job done. And if you can't do it now, then fine, sack him. But give it a minute.
You've also left the Catbros logo on screen. You haven't done that deliberately.
I did that deliberately.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
I've made it slightly transparent, but just trying to be careful with it.
Yeah, no worries.
Copyright stuff and YouTube, and that's why. Hence pausing as well. Just trying to be extra careful with it so we don't get striked or anything.
The never-ending stories about Michael Maguire being a dead man walking have earned the ire of the top Tiger, skipper James Tarmo. So James, does Madge still have...
But he mentions that, right? It talks about like a lot of stories about it. Has any of that come from the club itself, though? That'd be my question. Or is the media just seeing them not be like top four and going, haha, this is an easy story. Let's talk about sacking the coach. Because I haven't heard anything from the club to suggest there's an issue there yet. Big yet.
And then there have been all those, like, there was that, I think it was the Fox League Facebook/Twitter account posted an article about which coaches are in the most danger of being sacked, and Madge, or out of the teams that missed the finals, and Madge was at the top of the list, while Ricky Stewart, whose team have had an incredible fall from grace, is third from the bottom at third safest.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they say, oh, look at all this talk about this subject, but they're the ones talking about it. Like, they'll come out and write all these stories, whether there's any actual information from a club or not. And then later on, they'll go back and go, look at all this chat. Oh my God, there was so much talk about it. And it's like, well, you're the one who was doing it. It's like you're talking to yourself in a mirror, basically. Like, it's crazy that like they're this self-fueling machine that goes around in circles.
the Tigers dressing room?
100%. I haven't seen anything like it. Every word he says, everyone still hangs on the balance. I was talking to the players. Before we left, we all sort of said the same thing about Madge. So, we like I said, I haven't had too much to do with the board, but they know where we are at.
Is it time to change coaches?
No, I don't think so, mate. I don't think so at all.
James, if he was sacked as coach, how would that impact you?
It'll be tough. It'll be like losing a friend.
I think he's searching for words a bit and trying to make it sound really good. But I do believe the sentiment.
Yeah, the sentiment is there regardless of the way he goes about getting to it.
I think he's struggling trying to, obviously because he's speaking on the news and all that sort of stuff, but someone who sucks at speaking, I know how he feels, but like it comes at like Madge is the one that brought him over and made him captain. Like, I can't imagine he'd have too much bad blood with a guy like Madge, even if he has called him out a couple of times in private about his performances. Especially a seasoned veteran like Tarmo. Like, he's been around the games for a few coaches now. He knows for a fact before he even meets a coach that at some point in that season he's gonna get a spray.
Yep.
Like, I can't imagine too many hurt feelings over that. And especially in a team that's struggling to make the 8. Like, it's the whole idea that Madge has lost the dressing room. I think it's a bit. It doesn't make quite add up to me. Like, you look at the Canberra situation, and that to me looks more like a coach who's lost the dressing room.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The Tigers just look like they're struggling to be cohesive too much, and mentally be on the games week to week. But that's the sort of stuff you see when a salary cap needs sorting. It's the same thing with the Bulldogs, like it's. Whereas, like, look at the Raiders, so they just look like they're not in it, and they look like they genuinely have had troubles between coach and players or whatever. But I think it's more.
They've had like issues with the players and stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think with the Tigers, it's more media spin about the coach because it's an easy headline.
There was also a lot of media fallout with what's his name, Hodgson. Like a big media fallout between Hodgson and Stewart. I think it was just before Magic Round.
Yeah, they had all that stuff earlier in the year. So, and funny enough, their form has slowly gotten worse over the year. They beat Melbourne
Yeah,
earlier in the
after
year.
the Faders came back to play.
Yeah.
I don't see the sense. Like I said, you need these things. It takes time. You need the cohesion, and to bring someone else and to start again. You know, you're just sort of starting again. Madge has laid a foundation.
Tamo says he knows he's been wearing heat for not being a vocal leader.
Well, he has laid a foundation. You've got a lot of good juniors coming through. It's just about him
Our
playing.
reserve grade system, our Jersey Flex system. Like, look at how well that those two teams did this year before their comps were shut down.
And they just brought in Sheens to help out behind the scenes, different things in the football department. So it's like there are processes happening. There are things happening, and maybe it's just maybe I went off a bit early, but the reasons I gave for them being better this year exist. They're just taking longer to come to fruition.
Kamali hasn't even been brought in for particularly for like the junior.
What I mean,
like the SG ball and those comps and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like there are things happening. Like to turn around and sack the coach now, you're literally putting all this progress you're making, setting it back again. You're going 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back. Right back to where you started.
If the reserve grade comps and the like Jersey Flag comp had not been cancelled, the Tigers teams in both of those comps, or Magpies in one of them, but the club's teams in those comps would have been absolute forces. Like you look at our reserve grade team into the shutdown, they were 3rd and had only recently just dropped down into 3rd beneath Para in 2nd.
Yeah.
While the Jersey Flag boys, the under 21s, were undefeated. They had like 6 or 7 wins or something like that and 3 or 4 draws.
Yeah.
Like they had not lost a game. They were absolutely killing it.
You'll have to give us the Cincinnati context if you're still in chat, because obviously we don't know a lot about the sport over there. It's the NFL reference in the chat.
That's the Bengals, isn't it? Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think so. But no, the COVID breaks and stuff in especially in those lower grade comps, it's, I would say, one of the big contributors to the quality of football.
Especially considering the comps last year were scratched after the first round.
Yeah, there were no comps there, so your depth isn't playing any football at all. So it's a bit rough. And then when you're trying to, like, you might have someone develop for 2 years in the lower grades and then debut and then become a mainstay of your top 17. Well, it's more difficult to do that.
He's already taken.
I was just saying it was nice though. The Magpies finished the 2020 season on top of the ladder. 1 win and the best differential. It was great.
Nice.
Had that whole season with the Western Suburbs Magpies at the top of the reserve grade ladder.
It counts. It still counts. Minor premiers.
Minor premiers after 1 game. I'll take it.
Taking steps to fix that.
I don't want another season like this season, and I know no one else in that club does. It hurts. We're all hurt. So, I messaged some boys, come back in pretty good shape because we're hitting the ground running.
And one thing,
see, that's what a leader does. Like
what a leader needs to do.
Yeah, like I'm not of the opinion that people are gonna be perfect or should be perfect, like every day, every year, all time. And if they're not, then they can't be in a leadership position. Like if he's had a bad year this year after being good at Penrith, but then steps away at the end of the year and looks back on his year and goes, you know what? I'm not really happy with that. There are things I need to improve on, like my communication, for example. And then he comes back, like he said, he's messaged them and said, look, we need to be in shape, come back in shape. We need to work on this. And then his year next year, for example, is a lot better, both in the way he leads the team vocally and physically.
And that's the definition of a good leader.
Then yes, that to me is a good leader, because he was able to see his own faults and address them, as well as then do his for the team. Like you can't expect people to be perfect all the time. If he doesn't do that though, well then yeah, I'll just say, well, you failed.
Failed dismally.
Yeah, and then you'll get booed out. You'll leave the Tigers, and no one will think fondly of you at all.
Marvin Lewis was the Cincinnati Bengals coach and had less than 40% win percentage and keeps the same player core. They recently started a rebuild by firing said coach.
I can't blame them. 40% win percentage sounds pretty horrible in any comp.
Yeah, well, considering Madge has like a 33% win percentage
Yeah.
for Tigers coach is a little sad.
Yeah, but we are giving him the benefit of the doubt due to the, I guess, the special baggage he's got that a lot of other coaches don't generally have.
Well, the thing for the core of the West Tigers now, Dominic, is that the core is young.
Yeah.
The core is young. The core is the Stefano Utoikamanu, the Adam Dewey, the Dane Laurie.
Matt Madge himself is building the new core, so it's in this weird spot where it looks like he knows what is required and is doing it. It's just taking time to get there.
Tell me about the Bengals, Dominic. Are they going to be any good this season, do you think? Are they going to be a force to be reckoned with, or are they going to be freaking garbage? I might follow them if they're not going to be friggin' garbage.
We got to cheer on the Tigers win every once in a while.
You're sure of. Luke Brooks is part of the Tigers solution, not the problem. Would you like Brooksy to stay, mate?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I trust Brooks.
On the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, I'm sick to death of hearing about Brooks. Like, you can see he's putting in the effort. Maybe he's not a big talker, and that's fine. Dewey seems
not the leader. He's not
like
the captain.
Dewey seems like he can't shut up. Like, he's like one of those guys who just he would talk under wet cement.
Shoelace Renault.
So you, like, Madge would see this on a daily basis, so use it to your advantage. Let Dewey be the talker. Let Brooks be the guy who just plays his game. There you go. Like, Brooks, the problem with their halves is that their middles get beat too often. It's pretty simple. You know, when you've got Tamo running for like 30 meters a game or something, like, you know, these guys need to step up and be better. Or when the defense is just letting guys just walk through them.
When McKaylee is dropping balls every
like
three to four,
like
four sets.
That game, you guys were clearly ahead physically. Like, you were outplaying the other team, and he drops like 4 balls, and you're like, shoot this guy into the sun. That was the most infuriating game I've ever watched.
That was the Cowboys one, I think you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It was in the last 2 weeks of the season there. Top of my head now, I can't remember. But you guys were the better team at the time, but he just kept dropping the ball constantly. I'm like, what is this guy doing?
Coast, Danny Weidler, 9 News.
And that seems to be the end of it. Short and sweet.
Yeah, just a short one.
But and he said good things.
Yeah, he might have dressed a little bit of it up, but he did say some things, which was good to see.
But he's got to live up to that, though. You know, it's
the question will be now: how does he, as a captain and a leader, bounce back going into 2022?
Yeah. Ooh. Because the one you linked was a Twitter video, right? So when I've clicked out of it, it's come up with the feed. And it's a Panthers fan. Is there a more overrated player than Liam Martin? Once again, he's stupidly given a start. 5 missed tackles, 45-meter gain. Meanwhile, Kickout and TPG were benched. One of your best, Ivan. Face palm. What do you think of that?
Ouch.
they didn't hold back.
Shots fired.
They didn't hold back. Like, damn.
Got anything from Josh Robbo on your feed?
Oh my
Because
God.
apparently he's been golden the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Apparently
Let's have a
he's
look.
given some
All right,
golden content.
I've just pulled. That's the comment there. Like that, he didn't hold back. He did not hold back. You can find Josh.
At first, he was complaining about the grand final being moved because of the obligations, but it's like, hang on.
So is it Josh Robbo 44?
Yeah, that's the one.
But
it's like, hang on, Josh. The state government have said they will not be able to. That's why it's been moved.
See anything on?
Oh, like if you go back to the game last night and like before the game and during the week, apparently there are many things.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. All right, so about the Ivan Cleary press conference stuff, he says, yes, he does have a point, but at the same time, he shouldn't be deflecting from our performance tonight. He shouldn't be allowed to make pre-game comments about referees because even though they're not consciously thinking about it, they're in the subconscious. That seems like a reasonable comment, actually.
That's one of his better ones.
Yeah, that's actually a reasonable comment. Let's just pop that up on the screen because that's actually a decent comment. Josh Robbo, comment of the day. But that's actually really reasonable. Like
comment of the year, probably.
Yeah, but that's fair. Like I think it's safe to say we know that Ivan was deflecting a little bit, maybe taking some pressure off. But then again, all coaches do it, so nothing new for the game of rugby league. Bennett never made any, so this would probably be a South fan, I guess. Bennett never made any public comments. He asked the rest to clarify the policing of the rule internally in brackets. Cleary made it public after someone in the referee group disclosed Wayne's request to him. Wayne responded, irrespective, Penrith failed, outmuscled. And Josh said, Wayne complained first. He even admitted he made the comments weeks ago. Yeah, privately. I don't know. They said, yo, Martin and Yo shouldn't have been penalised for their crushes because no one was charged. But then again, I do give a little bit of leeway to the refs because, as we've spoken about before, is they don't have the same sort of technology and leeway and all that sort of stuff. The refs literally making a call on the fly. So it'll be a lot harder.
Mm-hmm. Which is a lot of what we were saying before.
Yeah, where like, so I do have a bit of forgiveness for the refs in that situation. It's definitely a lot harder for them. Because they don't have, like, even the angle's totally different. They're down on the ground when we're watching on TV or even sitting in the crowd. Like, we're not on the field in amongst the players. Like, it'd be so much harder for them to make the call. I'm not seeing too much. No, I'm not seeing too much hint towards what you're.
Let me see if I can find the one about the grand final being moved. And I'll send it to you.
He definitely seems more critical of Penrith than anything like, for example, with the Tigers game, which gained him his infamy.
Oh, that was that was some mental stuff going on there with that man.
This definitely seems more on the fair side. Like I said, just a shame that we pulled that sort of performance out tonight. Romy went missing in action tonight, which didn't help, and I don't think the conditions in Townsville helped. Have to hope for a better outcome next week. Better refereeing. Someone said there was nothing wrong with the refereeing. Said, are you effing serious? We got one penalty in the whole second half, which was for a late hit. There was no penalty for Walker taking big chase off the ball. There was no penalty for Tuo being hit high at the end. Pretty generic, disagreeing over the refereeing, which happens, I think, after every single game. It's like in the NRL lifeblood of the, it's part of the culture at the moment, which I'm not a fan of, but I'm more of a in the heat of the moment complain about the refs, and then when I cool down go, oh, maybe I was being a tweet.
Here's one. He just says, why is the NRL advertising for the finals in New South Wales? We can't go, so why advertise the tickets and then use crowd shots specifically from New South Wales stadiums where games can't be held?
I mean, I can see the logic. It's like a tease. Like, hey, look what you can't have.
Hey, Panthers, you've won the right to host a qualifying final, but look where it can't be played.
I can see just being generally annoyed about that, but still, you still want to advertise it because people are going to want to watch on TV, which is where they make their money. Apparently, there was one where he had some nasty words about Wayne, but he deleted it because he'd misworded it and whatever. So I don't know.
Here's the one I was thinking of. Sending it to you.
What do we got? The NRL has a commercial agreement with the New South Wales government, which apparently doesn't mean anything anymore. 3 Origins, Magic Weekend, Finals, now GF. What does New South Wales get? Sweet F all, because we don't matter, obviously, in the eyes of the NRL.
And I'm pretty sure he gets ripped to shreds in the comments.
I mean, I get what he's saying. It's what I was saying before, but it's a bit of a tease, and it sucks not having the football. We used to drive down to Penrith for home games and stuff. We've been to some finals games. I remember being at the Sharks Panthers final. I think it was 2017, and it came down to Nathan Cleary missing a field goal. That was one of the best live football experiences I've ever had. To see them make that comeback, and it was just the crowd going off. It was amazing. It's fantastic. Even the wife loves going down to the football and everything. It's a good day out. But it's kind of out of the NRL's hands. If they want to have any crowds there at the moment, they can't have it here.
Yeah, and you went down to that game, Panthers Dogs, for your birthday.
Yeah.
Earlier in the year.
They've done the best they can under tough circumstances. Oh, it's not. This one isn't, I don't think, on the NRL, so up there. I can't really blame them for that. It's what do you do? I don't understand what they could have done better. What improvement on that they could have made, because at least
they're
this
making
way,
the best of a shitty situation.
Yeah, at least this way, we can still watch it. still get some crowds in. Somebody gets to go, and just here, I mean, we're basically getting mass lockdowns and all this garbage, and there's not really much we can do, and it keeps extending. Like, we got school age here, and she's probably not going to be back to school at all this year. She has to do all her schoolwork on a freaking laptop in the house here. So it's like, I don't see what's wrong with it. So, Josh, this isn't it. It's shit, but this isn't it. Yeah, I agree. Like, it does suck. I miss having the football. Who doesn't? But yes, Queensland have had everything.
See you, NSL and Justin, even though you're both probably gone already.
Oh, see you guys.
Good luck, NSL.
Good luck for this afternoon.
Probably don't need it, but you should win relatively comfortably. But then again, I said the same thing about the Panthers, and look where that ended up.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we'll end it there.
I regret everything.
Yeah. We'll end it with yes. I feel your pain, Josh, about not having the football, but fortunately there's not a lot anyone can do about it. It is what it is. NRL have done, I think, the best they can under the circumstances.
Hopefully we've met the vaccination requirements by next season and we can get back to some live footy.
Yeah, I'll be getting my second dose of the AZ within the next 2 weeks. I'll be fully vaccinated soon.
I've got 2 weeks and a couple days before I get my second Pfizer dose.
I think everyone's getting there. Then
Considering
hopefully,
I only just had my first one.
Yeah, I think you gotta leave it a bit. So hopefully we'll get there by next season, and then be fine.
I mean, they haven't said anything about the NRL like fans having to be vaccinated.
Actually, it's actually just generally a bit vague. So we'll see what happens. Everything, it's either vague or they say something and then it changes, or they extend lockdown. I don't know.
It's something I'm expecting to come. I'm expecting them to announce eventually that, like, if you want to go to live sport or whatever, you'll have to be vaccinated.
Yeah,
and shit. Like, I'm kind of expecting that's where this is gonna go.
Yeah, I'm expecting it. You'll probably end up having to still do the QR code signing in everywhere, and it'll say whether the person's vaccinated or not.
Yeah, like vaccine passports or whatever they're calling it on phone or whatever.
You can see that coming.
Link to your, like a MyGov account or link to Service New South Wales or whatever.
It's definitely coming. Not looking forward to it, but much I can do about it.
If we've got to do it to go back to the live footy, then we've got to do it. Like, obviously, I'm going to be a 7th year member next year, and I'm still going to want to go to games. So,
well, that's it. Like, I love going to games, so hopefully we get it all sorted.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Good luck for this afternoon. Hopefully Eels by 18.
No, hopefully Eels by whatever I said.
Well, yeah, we'll see how you go in your other comp.
I want my $1,000.
So, no pressure, Eels, but there's $1,000 riding on this.
Well, yeah, I'm at least 500. I'd like my 500 at least. I'm going to try and not be too greedy.
Yeah, that's pretty decent. So it's not too bad. All right, cheers. Enjoy the weekend.